Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, OX Kennedy, and this is my co-host, Chris Coffee.eth. Now, I know
What's
what
up,
you're
everybody?
thinking. Hey, what's up, Chris? I know what you're thinking. What is Web3 Week, right? Web3 Week is a 3-day conference that focuses on different aspects of the Web3 space. Now, we're going to kick it off today. Day one is going to be, it's called itsNFTs for traders and fans, and it's brought to you by Ninja Alerts and, of course, the Stacks Foundation. Day two, we're going to talk more about GameFi and the Metaverse, and that's going to deal with more play to earn and different emerging aspects of the Web3 space. Day three is going to be unmutable, and that's the music and in the blockchain, basically. It's going to be the intersection of music and the blockchain. So I'm so excited. I'm so excited, Chris. I really can't wait. I really can't wait, man. Today, we're going to kick it off today. Day one agenda for today is going to start from 11:30 a.m. and it's going to run to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to have 6 great sections with the top level traders and investors. Tell us a little bit more about the session, Chris.
Yeah, man, I'm super excited about it. As many of you know, we have a close connection with some of these Metaverse HQ guys and a lot of other people that you'll see throughout the day. But you're going to be getting some alpha leaks throughout the day from some of the best traders in the space. I'm talking top 1,000 wallets for realized gains in the NFT space that are going to be here today, here in just a few minutes, being able to share some alpha with you, how they do trades and everything about that, about flipping NFTs, of course. The other sessions will tell you about the latest tooling in the space. So just general tools that you use and everything else. We're also going to have some Munib highlights, which is really cool. And I'm excited to learn more about this because I personally don't know enough about Munib. But obviously throughout the day, I will. This is going to be a deep dive into the prehistory of the NFT space and of Bitcoin NFTs. Munib Ali is the founder of Stacks and the CEO of Trust Machines. He'll talk about his experience in early Bitcoin NFTs, along with Brittany Laughlin, which is the executive director of the Stacks Foundation, who was there at the beginning of the Bitcoin NFTs. So again, for this first space coming up, we have some of my favorite people that I have talked to in the space and of course, brought to you by Ninja Alerts. We can't forget that. We just got a new web app. We just got a new phone app. So definitely be sure to check that out. But in this first space, we're going to have Jajang, we're going to have Grifton, we're going to have Eric, we're going to have Trevor, we're going to have some amazing traders in the space. I can't wait for it. It's kicking off in just a few minutes. And yeah, we'll see you guys then. So Ken, any other thoughts throughout today that you're excited about?
Oh yeah, I'm excited about everything, every aspect of it. Because of course, you know, we do NFT Traders Show, and we've had most of these guys on our show, and they. In a time like this in the down market, their knowledge is invaluable. Like we got to know, like how do we stay on top of the market? And today you're gonna find that out by watching this conference. And I just can't wait. I got my notepad ready. I'm ready to soak up as much information as possible. I really can't wait. We're gonna kick it off to Trevor. Trevor Owens is gonna be the moderator for this panel. It's gonna be 6 people or 5 people on the panel: Grifton, Isis J, JJ, Mike from NFT Culture, and Classic Mitchum. Again, we've had him on the show. I really can't wait. That's all. I can't wait. I'm ready. Let's kick it over to.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Trevor Owens. I'm the managing partner of Stacks Ventures and the CEO of Ninja Alerts. Today, I'm joined by some of the best traders in this game. Collectively, the traders that we're about to talk to, they have made over 2,500 ETH in profits. I know that from analyzing their wallets using Ninja Alerts. And so I want to kick it off, guys. Please go around, please introduce yourself and talk about what you do in the space. Are you a full-time trader, etc.? We'll start with JJ. Then we'll go to Griff, then Isis, and then Mitch.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me here. I'm JJ. I am a full-time trader in the space, mostly doing NFTs, a little bit of DeFi. I do have a full-time job outside of this, so I haven't quit yet. It's feeling good a bit in this little bear that we're having right now. So, I get clowned a lot for keeping my jobs, but this is why I do it, so I have that sense of security. So, I'm just kind of sitting on the sidelines now, but hoping to dive in soon for the trades.
Griff, over to you.
Sure thing, man. Yeah, my name is Grifton. Garrick is my first name. I'm a full-time trader in the space since about August now. This is my first market, and I've been sweeping floors since.
Hey, I'm Eastus or Eric. I'm full-time in the space. I've been full-time since, well, I pre-quit my job before NFTs back in 2019, but I've been full-time in NFTs since about January 2021. I do a lot of crypto, DeFi trading, and yeah, I'm just observing all the craziness in this market and participating where I can.
Mitch.
Hey, yeah, my name is Mitch Loxamana. I see a lot of my friends up here today, and excited for this one. I've been in Web3 since the rug that they call Top Shot, and it's been a fun time stumbling into Ethereum blockchain with a lot of these troublemakers here, and I'm excited to talk a little bit about that today.
Awesome. So, Mitch, why don't we start with you then, and we can work backwards in the reverse order.
Sure.
The next 3 months, bear or bull? What are your predictions for what we're gonna see in the market for the next 3 months?
If we're talking strictly NFTs, I think if we're looking at historical data where we were this time last year in terms of volume, in terms of Ethereum prices, I'm actually quite right now, I'm quite bullish. I think that the free mints, I think the first come first serve mints is what made this space so fun. First come first serve being public sale mints. None of this, we're gonna pre-allocate 95% of the mint privately. And that's what makes it fun. And we're seeing the market sort of react in this general direction, especially with Goblin, especially with a lot of these, more inappropriate free mints that are just absolutely mooning. I also think, Griff's been a really great example of this, looking into other avenues of NFT investment, right? NFTs, maybe they birthed on Ethereum in terms of popularity, as more recently over the year, but it's not going to be where all of the volume is going to be. It's not where it's going to die necessarily. I think NFTs will be multi-chain, right? That's the idea. How to buy an NFT, an aggregator of a market, an aggregator of a crypto should be very easy to buy an NFT on another blockchain with a different crypto. And so, a lot of people here and on Twitter have been focused on Solana. And I think it's just, again, a precursor to NFTs will exist. People love this shit. Maybe it's for the culture, maybe it's for the utility, whatever the case might be. A lot of it's for the technology. That's a really big driver. And for those reasons, it just makes it a lot more fun to find where the next upside play is. Not even on one chain, but on which. And for those reasons, I'm bullish. But I'm also an optimist, and I think that is going to be an aspect of my trading that I am constantly in battle with.
Thanks for that, Mitch. Eric, what do you think? Agree or disagree?
I think we're gonna have some moments of bull. But for me, I've zoomed all the way out to the macro environment. So I'm watching what these guys know. I write write-ups for MBHQ. I'm watching what Powell is doing. I'm watching what the normie market is doing. I feel like the money is going to start there and trickle down into riskier assets like crypto and then eventually NFTs. What I do like is, I agree with Mitch, the fun of NFTs was when we were degen minting, night crew, kind of, finding these risky things that could drain your wallet. And that's where the bonds were made. And so, I'm bullish that we're going to find these pockets of opportunity. I'm bullish on, tightening relationships in the space and getting ready for the next, bull run. But I think we're going to go sideways here until we get some direction from the normie markets, in terms of like volume and stuff like that.
Yeah, man. This is my first market, so it's really hard for me to really say. I'm really just kind of learning as we go. I started about a year ago, and I didn't take it full time until 6 months after that. I personally feel like this is a good experience for people to get into this space with, because they're seeing things when they're low, and they can really start to find opportunities a little easier, in my opinion. It seems like the volume is a little bit more concentrated at the moment. Not a lot of older projects are getting volume. It's a lot of these newer ones. So it depends on the outlook, I guess. I'm bullish for newer people or the people with smaller bags over the next couple of months, but I guess I'm a little bit bearish on blue chips at the moment and other things like that. But overall, I think that NFTs aren't going away. I think that has been shown through the past couple of months of these hard times, and we're going to have our rally again. It's just going to be a little quiet, I think, until then. But we have opportunities, which is something we can't knock, and we're lucky to have.
Awesome, JJ.
Yeah, I love that answer from Griff. Yeah, I'm of the same sentiment. Generally bearish on blue chips. I think Mitch always puts it best. Like, he doesn't really believe that there's a blue chip in this space. I think the only one he ever bought was like Azuki, and then you see what happened there with the founders. You just can't trust these people sometimes. I mean, look at Apes and other side. They've been radio silent for like over a month now. It's kind of nuts how much money they pulled out of the market and then just shift to complete silence. But I do think we'll see some pockets of bull and bear in the short term. I think trending more towards bull in my opinion, just for NFTs. I think it has a lot to do, like you just said, with the macro perspective. And I have my own opinions on it, of course, just because everyone has their opinions, but I'm not a financial analyst by any means. But we're going into a midterm for the political season soon, and I just can't see the Dems going into the midterms and being like, hey, you're all down 50% of your investments, vote us all in. So I kind of see a bull cycle, even if it's a short one, coming in the short term.
Thanks, guys, for those perspectives. So let me ask another question. If you were starting today in the NFT space, looking to start investing, let's say you had 1 ETH to start with, what would be your strategy going forward the next 3 months? And maybe we can start with you, Isis.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is perfect for people starting with 1 ETH with the free mints, right? As long as you can, kind of split your, not, put all your ETH in one basket. You get in here low gas, you get in free mints. I would invest in a tool like Ninja Alerts. I'd invest in a tool like NFT Nerds. I'd watch volume and I'll just ride that volume, right? 0.001 or 0.005 to 0.02. You just for extra money, you know what I mean? And you just keep grinding that. A lot of people here a lot of people in, groups I was in started with 1 ETH, and that's how they got to their peaks. So I think this is a perfect time for them, just grind those free mints and, make your money, get ready for bull.
And Eric, how do you find those free mints?
Yeah, so you could, for me, I would look at what's trending on Ninja Alerts, what's trending on NFT Nerds, or I'd follow wallets and see what those people are minting, right? So the first thing for me would be, I'm in an alpha group, but a lot of those are expensive, right? But I would, if I had, 1 ETH, I would, buy something like NFT, something to track, where volume is. I would track that. I would track what's going on in somebody else's, like, if is anybody popular minting, and I would just follow suit. I would just draft everybody that's a whale that's minting any of these, free mints right now, and look at volume. Make sure there's not a rug and run with it.
Awesome. Griff, how about you?
He hit it right on the head right there. The free mints are such a great opportunity for somebody with a lower amount of liquidity to really kind of make some failures along the way of their trading journey, which is 100% a part of learning it. So yeah, like you're getting at, like, how are we going to find those free mints? I follow a lot of people that are in similar trading styles of me, which is like sweeping floors, which is really, I think, the best way to go about these free mints, because there's more liquidity at the floor, right? So with these free degen mints, which the majority are going to go to zero in the end, people really don't care. They're trading them like a shit coin, right? You just want to buy what's the cheapest and then ride that floor rise and then get them off. So I think that it's really just about knowing the meta, knowing the trends at the time. Like, we know ugly things are kind of popular right now. Silly, goofy things because of the goblins are the current meta, but that could switch in an instant. And I think that what keeps you on your toes in this game. You know, we had the Zuki anime meta for a few months. We had the cute meta for a long time. So you just got to be open, and also don't buy what you like. You know, you got to buy what the market likes.
Yeah,
that's a great point, Griff. Mitch, why don't we go to you and then to JJ?
Yeah, I think the boys are bringing up really good points. I especially like the last one, where Griff mentioned that you need to understand the context, right? Understand the context of the space gives you a lot of insight as to what you think will hit next in terms of the meta. And also, to use this point, you know, finding that tool that's right for you. I'd even go one step further. If you have an ETH, like, don't fucking spend it. Like, chill out for a month. Like, chill out for a good amount of time and understand like your own investment frame, understand context within the market, which tools fit you comfortably and best. Like, maybe your plays are best. Yeah, your ETH is best spent in secondary plays, right? Simply secondary plays. So you'd purchase a subscription to a tool that would just focus precisely on that, NFT nerds. Or perhaps you want something that it gives you more upside. Maybe you're focused on minting, right? So maybe you're gonna like use a wallet tracker like Moby, or you know, even some of those more like really fancy mint bots, if you will, whatever the case might be, whatever your frame is. Like, when Isa says volume, look at volume. What does that mean, right? You have to be able to not just speak the lingo, but understand where to look. If you're going to go for mints, understand, you know, how to read an Ethoscan, how to what indicators are you looking for to make plays on? Is this something that you should mint? And yeah, and then just getting a general context of vibe of the space. Like, to be even more specific, I listened to the first Goblin Town spaces when they were just making like fucking goblin sounds, and like they would bring people up and just troll them for asking real questions. It was hilarious, right? It was like in a time where the market and the sentiment was so down bad, people just need to laugh. And at the time, Goblins was 0.32, and I should have known. I should have known better that this was a feel. This was a general. This was something that was cultural. It didn't necessarily have anything to do with the roadmap, expectations, team. None of that. It was simply just we were having some good fun, and you could see the traction there on Twitter Spaces. It had more and more listeners. That's a great indicator. That's a great bullish indicator if there are a lot of listeners on Twitter Spaces for a project, honestly. So there are a lot of those indicators. Understand those can be market triggers too. And again, just saving the ETH, especially if you have a low stack, to just learn as much as you can. And then once you're ready to fire away.
JJ, what do you think?
Yeah, I love all these answers. I think everyone has a great strategy to approach. If you had one ETH, I would also mirror the sentiment that, you know, a tool is just essential to the space, whether it be Moby, Ninja Alerts, IC tools, whatever tracker, just so you can get your feet wet and track wallets and see what the market's doing, and, you know, learn from other traders. I use those tools more to classify traders for myself. Like, for example, Grifton is a great floor sweeper, and I follow his wallet for that specifically. Like, you know, if he's sweeping something, it makes me take another look if I wasn't already. And then, you know, I would just stick to kind of what Mitch is saying, you know, try to be as risk off as possible in the first, you know, 30 days or so. Maybe get in with like a free mint or two, just because they're, you know, low risk, high reward. If it goes to zero, you lose like $10 maybe. And if it does well, you know, you can make, you know, 1,000, 10,000 of those free mints up from just one of them. So yeah, I try to be as risk averse as possible in the first month and just try to learn, and then see what your strategy is, or try to develop a strategy that fits you, and then get your feet wet. I mean, you're gonna probably lose money when you start, just because that's, you got to kind of pay to learn, just like everywhere else. Like you pay for college, and so we pay here, whether it's a missed opportunity, or selling too late, or buying too high or something. So you got to get your licks in, no matter what.
So
I just want to touch on
Okay.
touch on something these guys said. If you're new and you have a small stack, it's better to be a little bit late to the party and leave the party early than to be early to the party and leave the party late, right? So I like what Miss said, learn the space, find your niche, jump in, and don't be the last person at the party. You know what I mean? Like get out of that, get out before before the meta changes to whatever the new thing is.
Yeah, speaking on that, our friend Mitch here has a famous saying, which is "eyes forward." Mitch, do you want to elaborate on what that means and why that's like sort of your mantra for life and trading?
Well, it's funny. It's my mantra, but I didn't create that. That's actually JJ. So I don't know why I keep getting credit for that. I say it a lot because it actually is like now within every fiber of my being.
You just have the tattoo on your arm. That's all.
Well, I actually do have a tattoo of an NFT collection. This is true. It's of the Superlative collection, and that's another great like eyes forward sort of moment. But I think maybe JJ could talk more on its origination. What it means for me is like eyes forward is like you act rationally. You don't let emotion take hold of you and prevent you from looking for the next upside play. You also let emotion allow you to like hold your fucking bags to the ground to zero. What was just mentioned here, learn when to rotate your profits, learn when to take profit, learn when to cut your losses. That's what eyes forward is. And it's not even just like a trading mentality. It's really just like a life mentality, honestly. But JJ could speak on it more. That's how I've adapted it. It's just such an easy thing for my brain to perceive when I'm down bad, or or even worse, could have been up greatly, like selling my ape at 1.6. But instead, what am I going to do about it? I'm just going to be proactive and do what I can do.
Yeah, JJ, so you are the creator of this, or you are the originator of this?
Maybe in this context, but I don't care who made it or whatever. It's the spreaders of the message, and Mitch. I would give him credit as a creator as well, because he spread it probably more than anyone else, myself included. So that's really what a mantra is about, right? It's about trying to get that to as many people as possible and try to instill that mentality. And Mitch has been a very vocal proponent of eyes forward, and lives and breathes it. So doesn't matter who created it. Some say Sneaky created it as well. So it might not even be me in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, I mean, when I started, there were a lot of opportunities where I profited from, but really missed the boat on. Like, for example, Tom Sachs rockets. I think I sold for like 3 ETH for a complete rocket, and then my specific one sold for like 20. We sold for 20 ETH in like the next 2 days, and so I felt the pain from it, but looking in the grand scheme of things, like I said, you gotta pay to learn, and dwelling on it's not going to help you. It's okay to respond emotionally to those kind of things. We're all human. We feel these emotions. It does suck, but what do? You learn from it, right? You learn the value of rarities. You learn maybe what this artist means to this marketplace. You learn what this type of project can do for the space, and you just try to, like Mitch said, try to move forward, look for the next one. That's kind of what I was trying to spread in voice chat, and Mitch and others in here have also spread. They've all spread this mentality. Grifton as well, big proponent, Easus as well, of eyes forward. And it's really a Metaverse HQ motto, right? And it belongs there. I believe that. And I do have a eyes forward shirt now myself. So I'm happy for that. I don't have to, I missed the first merch drop, but now I made up for it. And, it's just like, but like we're all saying, you know, it's like there's another opportunity always around the corner. So you just gotta eyes forward, and if you dwell on things, you're just gonna miss it. So you just gotta keep looking forward.
Awesome. Eric or Griff.
Yeah,
Go first, Griff?
oh yeah, I got no problem, man. Thank you. I really appreciate this mantra that these guys have instilled in a lot of people in Metaverse HQ. That's how I know these three guys right here. You know, JJ, he was the leader of the charge for a long time, kind of like the voice of the voice chat, you know, and he kept it together, I think, with that mantra, because as a new trader, as a young guy that had this opportunity but missed out on a lot of things in my eyes, it wore down on me, and I did dwell on it. But for them to continue to say that every day and make you realize that this is a place where you're not going to want to knock any opportunities, and if you're dwelling on it, putting energy towards it, you might miss it. So just keep it eyes forward and go on to the next one. So thank you to all you guys and everyone there that kind of keeps that motto going. I think it's the mantra of MBHQ almost, right? The motto of MBHQ.
Yeah, I love. I mean, for me, it's like the Apple of like financial advice kind of thing, where it's like just so simple and well packaged. The beauty is in the simplicity of it. I'll even extend it a little bit further, because I was in crypto in 2017, and I didn't stay as active as I wanted to, because I was so busy thinking about not selling the top and my bags and stuff like that, right? Luckily I didn't sell everything, so when it bounced back, I still had, you know, some of the stuff. But, you know, the beauty of like eyes forward for me is like, this is a marathon, not a sprint. You know what I mean? And also a broken clock is right twice a day. So if you miss this play, that same play could be right now and wrong tomorrow and right again. And so timing that is a fool's game. The goal here is to stay in the game as long as possible until you get your big opportunity. And eyes forward allows you to, like, you know, minimize like the emotion on like bad trades, you know, not get too high in your good trades and stay right in the middle where you can like have a long career in this space. That's what it means for me.
Yeah. I want to compound on that, right? It's a law of big numbers. If you continue to stay in the game, like statistically speaking, just looking at data and being rational, you're going to eventually hit and rip. A good example of this is T-Moss. Shout out to you fucking rugger. He released a project and totally smoked me. This project was an absolute rug, and it blows my mind that he's still on Twitter, like just like fucking chopping it up. But I smoked myself, really, right? Because at the end of the day, the liability is on me. No one has a fiduciary responsibility to fucking pump my JPEG, really, right? That's how like it's the Wild West out here. So I got smoked for, I think, 3.5 ETH on a mint that was worth 0, right? I minted 80 of something that was worth 0. I could have been really down on myself. I could have taken myself away from the market. I could have like reverted my eyes. But when I get rugged, or when I rug myself, when I make a bad play, it makes me really thirsty. It makes me hungry. It makes me attentive. It makes me want it more. And it keeps me focused. And so eyes forward, literally the next day, Wolf Game mint drops. And again, if I was moping around, I would not have hit the mint. But if I was like, oh no, I don't know, maybe I'll get rugged again, and like my feelings will be hurt or something, you know, my wallet will be hurt. No, I would have missed a massive, massive multiplier. And as we know, Wolf Game today was, you know, an absolute like monstrous use case for the space, not just the project, but use case. And that is where the mantra really comes into play. It's the law of big numbers. The longer you stay in the game, the more you can get in on plays. Even if there's a high risk, if you could stay in the game long enough, you will eventually hit. And I love that perspective that Jesus brings, because it's like that OG crypto degen perspective that personally me, and it sounds like Griff as well, you know, we came into crypto through NFTs, not to NFTs through crypto. If that makes any sense. So it's cool to have context and perspective there, bro.
Awesome,
yeah,
guys.
you don't know rugs until you, like 2017 was Rug City, bro. Trust me. Like we have it pretty good compared to like what was going on back then, you know. So yeah.
Right.
So we just touched on a couple of situations where you guys learned a few lessons, maybe some failures that you touched on. What about some of the successes that you guys have had? Maybe we could start with you, JJ, and talk about what was your best trade to date and how did that come about? And how would you think about reverse engineering that?
Oh man, my most recent one was the other side snipe that I had um, right on my birthday weekend. That was a time where I had to take a step back from building in the space. I was probably involved in maybe 3 or 4 projects, and I was like, you know what, I'm missing out on trading. I need to kind of focus up on that. And so when that other side sale or happened, I was watching on NFT Nerds just, for certain serial numbers, and, managed to get lucky and get a good snipe in, sniped a inner land for 9 ETH and resold it for 100. And so to reverse engineer that was just kind of like the culmination of a lot of hard work that me, Yeezus, and a few others did on Eden and understanding it. Really, if it wasn't for Yeezus, I wouldn't have been able to get that snipe because he was the one that put me on Eden for sniping purposes. And it's a bit technical, but the more Eden you have, the if you get into an Eden block, then you will outorder other people, and doesn't really matter what gas you use as long as you're in the block. And so you will get priority over those other traders. And we had another success within MBHQ for Moonbirds, where a member Jarvis got a golden Moonbird at floor using Eden as well. So something to keep in mind for the future is just to keep these kind of things in our toolboxes, to keep it in mind when we do flip bull or there's a big mint coming up, is to kind of like, hey, maybe you want to have Eden so that you can out order other people when you go for these big snipes. So that was just kind of, again, the buildup of a lot of work that we did on Eden dating back to August, just understanding how it works.
How about you, Griff?
Yeah, so if I'm going to talk about like my favorite win that I've had, it was probably my first big cook. It was after my first big sale back in, I think, August, early August. I sold a rare gutter cat for about 5 ETH at the time. And that was amazing to me. That was like half of my salary as like a IT support guy. And that's what I really felt like I could do this. And I took that 5 ETH and I put it right into the Wicked Ape Bone Club. I don't know if you guys remember that. That was like one of the first derivative of a derivative, a combination of the Bored Ape Yacht Club and Wicked Craniums. And I knew the Wicked Craniums art was popular, but it wasn't really loved. But with the ability to bring the Bored Ape Yacht Club traits that people already understand and recognize the rarity of, I saw the potential, and they got fudded into the ground at the time. Something that in my eyes would fly today if it minted, got fudded into the ground for what it was. But I saw the potential, and I swept from like 0.01 to 0.04, and I went up to about like 0.7, and I had 50. So for me at the time, that was amazing. I made like over 25 ETH from that play. And that still feels like my favorite one to this date, even though I've had better, more profitable trades. That was just like the biggest, like another sign of showing that I could do this right after that big sale. So that was a good one, man.
That's amazing. And what else, is there anything else that helped you in that, like that floor sweep, or how did it go all the way up to 0.7?
No, yeah, that's a good question. We didn't even have like an aggregator at the time. So that was all manual. I was actually listing sniping from the listings page on OpenSea, when we had to actually do that. So yeah, I played my part, I guess, within that community. I kept the hype and the momentum going because I could focus on just one thing at that time. And I was able to kind of watch this thing grow. And then I realized that the founders weren't going to do anything, and I was able to sell the top for the most part. So that's another part of why it feels like a good trade. I executed very well.
Awesome. Well, guys, we're almost about out of time here, so I just wanted to let the audience know that they can find you guys. Actually, why don't you guys go around to say your Twitter handle so that everyone here can follow you?
Sure. I'm at Classic Mitra. I'm on Twitter, though. I believe it's a massive time rug. It's not, though. I think if you know where to look, yeah, you'll find good nuggets there for sure. And feel free to also catch us in Metaverse HQ, Discord server. And those are primarily the two places that I spend my time these days.
JJ?
It's JJang Bang 429. I suggest you follow Mitch instead, and you'll get some good alpha that way.
Griff? At Grifton NFT?
Yeah, at Grifton NFT. If you want some FUD, a little bit of alpha here and there when I try, but yeah, give me a follow, guys.
And Isis?
Yeah, I'm at EasusJ, EASUSJ on Twitter. Yeah, and if you wanna, see somebody messing around with the macro environment, give me a follow. Let's ride this market out together.
Awesome. And of course, you can also follow all of their wallets in Ninja Alerts to see what they're trading, buying, selling. Our four panelists here have made a minimum of over 300 ETH in profits. Together, they're at about 2,500 ETH in realized profits. So it was really great to have you guys here. I think if anyone watching is just getting started, can achieve some of the successes that you guys have, they would be very happy. So thanks, guys, for joining us. And we'll move on to the next session.
Thank you. Thanks
for having us.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
All righty, then. The next session is now. Are we live?
Oh, not yet. Are we up? Yo,
Yeah.
What's up? Sorry, guys. Sorry about that transition, but I just want to say what a power group right there. Some amazing traders in the space. We've had the opportunity to speak with some of them on other levels on Ninja Alert's show. But man, like ETH is talking about how if you just have a low amount of ETH to be able to just grab a tool, don't be the last one at the party. I know that I've been the last one at the party. That's not somewhere you want to be. Mitch talking about it just to save because your time will come. You will hit eventually. That's part of being in the space. That's part of what makes it exciting. JJ saying that it's a pay to learn market. Just knowing that if you take a loss, it's not a complete loss. You will eventually hit. It is part of that you have to be able to give back. And then just Griff with a reiteration of having your eyes forward. I follow Griff's wallet and he is constantly making moves, constantly buying in, degening projects. And I'm sure he has taken some L's, but I watch him every single week. And he's a great example of keeping eyes forward and going on to the next thing.
Yes, and let's keep the conversation going. Make sure to follow Stacks on Twitter at Stacks and keep the conversation going with the hashtag Web3 Week. Now, I can't wait for the next panel. I'm so excited about this one because it's flipping JPEGs in the multi-chain world. Now, of course, we've been joking that it's Solana summer. Now, of course, it hasn't gotten to a hot start because, of course, the market is down right now. But I can't wait for these panelists. We're going to have Jamil Danani from Gamma.io, where Easy Eats Bodega is going to be speaking. He's a Solana maxi. Can't wait to hear what he has to say. And of course, Trader Solana Legend from Solana is here. And it's going to be moderated by our PO.ETH. And I'm going to throw it over to PO.ETH right now. Let's get that started.
We're live. Welcome to Flipping JPEGs in a Multi-Chain World. We're bringing some much needed diversity to this event. 4 more guys talking about NFTs. This is the diversity that everybody wanted and didn't know that they needed, But I'm PO. I am a NFT content host. This panel is made up of a few legends, specifically Soul Legend, one of the best known Solana traders, Easy Eats, another very, very well-known Solana trader and host of the daily Twitter space, Solana Made Easy at 5 p.m. Eastern time on Twitter. And of course, Jamil, the co-founder and CEO of Gamma, which is a Stacks NFT platform. So we have representatives from different chains, two badass Solana traders, the CEO and founder of an exchange or a platform to trade Stacks NFTs. And everyone watching this, if you don't know about Stacks, then I don't know what you're doing here. And myself to try to fill in the blanks with some unintelligent commentary about the different chains that we're talking about. Gentlemen, how's everybody doing?
Hey, can't complain. We live in markets. They say it's cold, but there's some winners out there. So excited for the space, excited for the panel.
Doing great, Pio. Thanks for that intro, man. I'm ready to run through a brick wall. And as for the market's down, but NFTs are up. So we're all good.
Yeah, thanks for the intro, Pio. I'm super excited about the long-term future of NFTs. You know, markets go up and down, but, you know, we're here for a reason, right?
100%. And I'm really excited to discuss the different chains that are most popular right now when it comes to NFT trading. And I think that we have an interesting representation here. Obviously, the sort of gorilla in the bunch would be Ethereum, but everybody knows about Ethereum for the most part when they get into NFT. So I'm really excited to talk about Solana and also talk about Stacks. So I guess, why don't we start off with Soul Legend? You know, Legend, I know that you are primarily a Solana trader, but you definitely have experience and knowledge on the Ethereum side as well. And you're in, you know, some of these alpha groups and part of these communities that do, you know, share alpha on multiple chains. If you were going to sum up the difference between trading on Solana versus the culture of trading or investing for that matter on Ethereum, how would you kind of look at that?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the first thing is kind of to understand the differences between the two. There's a lot more similarities than people realize. Ethereum is fundamentally a more mature NFT market, one that's been down the road in terms of, you know, projects, innovation, you know, like degen behavior, tooling, and all of the above, right? And governance. So, you know, it's a much more kind of well-beaten path where, you know, there's very smart teams and there's a lot of money, right? And I think you know, the most successful projects in the world are on ETH. You know, no one's disputing that. I think, you know, to make a big bag on ETH, you have to be, you know, well connected. I think it's a little bit more gate kept at this point in terms of, you know, the blue chips are pretty well defined. Every now and then there's an incumbent, but, you know, pretty much these, you know, kind of top 4 or 5 projects are vying for the top spot. It's just a little bit kind of, I'd say, you know, less high risk, high reward. You know, people buy into these ETH blue chip projects, and you know, you can definitely make a lot of money flipping on ETH as well. But there's not as much of a flipper culture, because if you look at Solana, that's a lot of people that maybe are newer to crypto. This is maybe their first time with NFTs, first time with crypto in general, and you know, it's typically a little bit younger crowd, maybe people that weren't around in 2015, 2016. You know, they didn't come from Bitcoin. They're just kind of here for the first time. They're just excited to be involved. And, you know, there's much more of a flipper culture. So, you know, I like to say that people are much more impatient on Solana. Like, if you're a project and you haven't announced something in 3 days, you can expect your floor price to be down 25%. Whereas on ETH, you know, people like the art and they're just vibing, and they just kind of are much more patient. The capital is much more patient, and it's less rotational on ETH than it is on Sol. It's very rotational on Sol. It's kind of like the same hot ball of money getting passed around. And I know that exists on ETH as well, but on Solana, it's like a very sharp knife, right? Like, you have to be quite forceful with how you trade, because, you know, when that illiquidity hits on Sol, you can get locked up in a position and you can, you know, suffer like a minus 70% loss.
Very well put. And, you know, Easy Eats Bodega, you had a background of trading equities. You had a background of trading crypto long before NFTs, and you've traded both Ethereum and Solana, but you found Solana as your, you know, kind of mainstay, your home. You know, would you add anything to what what Legend said, or, you know, do you have a different opinion?
No, I mean, I think Legend kind of hit the nail on the head. A lot of this stuff, when it comes to people moving quickly in the market, that's what interested me. Coming from equities, crypto, 24/7 markets, even equities like option trading primarily, it's much more volatile. So being okay with those swings and cutting emotions out of it has been why I largely like the Solana side, because you're trading off of people and other emotions, whereas ETH tends to move slower. So just like Legend said, it's a different type of game and a different type of trading style completely, despite the blockchains. It seems like there's larger funds on the ETH side that can kind of sit on those bags a little bit longer. Whereas like Legend just said, 3 days, no announcement, it can get ugly for a Solana project.
Yeah, that's hilarious to think about when you think about the difference between Solana and Ethereum, for example, just in terms of the attention span. You know, Jamil, you're, as I mentioned before, you're the co-founder and CEO of an NFT platform on Stacks. And I think that, you know, out of the three of us, I know me and Easy don't really have much experience trading on Stacks. I don't know if Legend does, but I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on the difference between, you know, NFTs on Stacks, which is a little bit more of a nascent market compared to Ethereum, you know, and Solana as well. I'd love to hear about the differences there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I own NFTs on, you know, Solana, Ethereum, and of course on Stacks, and I'm a little bit familiar with all three platforms to some extent. I think on Stacks, what we've seen is, well, number one, it's a little bit more culturally isolated from the other blockchains, as you know, right? As you said, most people haven't had much experience if they're trading on ETH or Sol to come over to Stacks. That being said, the trading volumes are actually comparable to other platforms like Tezos and, you know, some of those sort of you know, secondary NFT blockchains, right? So we're getting a decent amount of trading volume, but culturally it's quite isolated. And I think that's because a lot of people on Stacks come from the Bitcoin community and come from this like sort of, it's a very different NFT culture. And I'll give you an example of that. So, you know, a couple of weeks ago, there was a big market crash, you know, with Luna and all of that going on. And what we saw in ETH and it's a Sol to some extent was, you know, at least short term, we saw floor prices dropping and, you know, a lot of volume happening and people trying to dump and get out. You didn't see that at all on Stacks. People are actually listing less and dumping less. And people are really in it for like long-term holding. And I think that sort of comes from a little bit of that Bitcoin culture. So if we're talking about like Solana being this very high frequency, very like measuring in days, and Ethereum maybe measuring in weeks, you know, Stacks is a very much longer term culture. And that's where I'm coming from too. You know, I left a very stable, very like long-term, you know, well-paying tech job in Silicon Valley, you know, to come to do this. And I think when you look at where my thesis is on NFTs, and you look at, say, you know, there was a whole class of people that essentially made their life based on the original Web 1 and Web 2 booms, whether you're talking about Elon Musk with PayPal or Bill Gates or whatever. So they focused on very long-term growth, right? I see NFTs as a fundamental asset layer of the future, right? And when you look at it in that perspective, if you're talking about, let's say, Amazon, I'm looking at Amazon as the fundamental storefront for physical goods on the internet in 2001. I'm looking at NFTs as the fundamental layer for how the future will be built in decentralized asset ownership. And then, you know, if you think back to 1980s or 1990s and people talking about flipping Apple stock or flipping Amazon stock, none of those people are rich now, right? None of them, right? The people that are rich, the people that made it, the people that changed the world are those that believed in the long-term projects, that sought out which ones added long-term value and really fundamentally, it sounds cliche, but did change the world, right? So that's sort of the perspective that I come from.
That's awesome, Jamil. And I have a follow-up question. You know, I come from Bitcoin myself, so I understand the mentality of the sort of Bitcoin maximalist, and I've seen their mentality when it comes to NFTs. But you said that your audience on Stacks for NFT trading is largely Bitcoin focused. What have you seen in terms of reception from the Bitcoin crowd when it comes to NFTs, you know, given that these NFTs are built on Bitcoin?
Yeah, I'll be pretty blunt here too. There are some people, some maximalists that just don't see the value in NFTs and think that, you know, anything that isn't Bitcoin is a shit coin, or any token or anything that's being built on top that isn't a currency is doesn't have value. But to them, like, just look at where Ethereum and Solana have gone and how much value they've provided to society. As a Bitcoiner, I can't deny that, right? If Bitcoin doesn't adapt and Bitcoin doesn't find these ways to add more value on top of the fundamental money layer, to provide assets, to provide governance, to provide all of these things, then of course a flip will happen, right? Of course you'll be left behind in the past. I think any platform when you start off, if like the inventor of the internet was like, no, you can't build chat apps on this. No, you can't build, like, it's just ridiculous, right? If you've invented something that's amazing, that's a fundamental base layer, it's almost the next generation's responsibility to build on top of it, to create new use cases and to build more things that advance that forward.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, you know, I'm hoping to see more and more adoption from the Bitcoin crowd, you know, to NFTs that are actually built on Bitcoin. It would make sense. And I'm hoping that we'll see that crowd discern the difference between money and, you know, collectibles or other utility-based NFTs, which are not money, right? It's a different thing. I have a question for Soul Legend. So, you know, my understanding, and definitely correct me if I'm wrong, is that Solana NFT trading had its first rise to prominence, you know, late summer, early fall of last year. So when you kind of think about that, we're not even a full year into, you know, Solana being a mainstream chain for NFTs specifically. You know, where do you see things going from here, given how young the market actually is? We've seen some big names like Shaquille O'Neal, Stephen Curry, Coachella, FTX get in the mix, just to name a few, by the way, get in the mix on Solana. How do you see Solana progressing from here, if you had to guess?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's kind of crazy to think about, you know, the NFT era on Solana as we know it started really kind of early August of 21, right? So you're right, hasn't even been a year. I think Solana is well positioned for this NFT kind of wave we're going to see in the next few years because, you know, when you look at Ethereum and you look at other options, you know, you really need you know, like an ETH to get started, right? Or you know, give or take. I mean, for a good whitelist, maybe a little less, but you know, that's not necessarily available to most people. So Solana right now is an offering where, you know, you can transfer $50 to a Phantom wallet and you have enough for, you know, enough gas for basically the rest of your life. And I think that's pretty powerful. And that is a very, very low barrier to entry. That's going to be, you know, a mass onboarding vehicle for Solana. I think that even though we've only been going for, you know, less than a year, we've already gone through 4 or 5 NFT meta like cycles, you know, from the PFP era, which I think was roughly August to November. November, we started a tokenomics era with staking and breeding. Then from there, you know, in January, we went to kind of a utility meta where it was all infrastructure as a service, software as a service, you know, NFTs backed by real businesses and cash flows, et cetera. And then from there, we've gone into branding meta, which we're in right now. We're kind of at the tail end of that. So if you look at the life cycle of kind of NFT competition and innovation on Solana, it's very fast. And, you know, there's very, very smart people, right? Like from the founder of Twitch, Justin Khan, to many others. And, you know, some of the biggest VC funds in the world are investing and positioning for this movement. So I think, you know, to answer your question, Solana will just onboard a ton of people via NFTs. And I think that, you know, every day that goes by that, you know, Solana is like the lowest cost barrier to get into NFTs is another day that Solana gains market share, and that frankly is just gaining a ton of users. Like if you look at the Solana marketplace, the biggest one is Magic Eden. They have about 90% market share. They're already doing, you know, far more transactions in OpenSea, and Solana NFT users are like, I mean, I think Solana overall daily users are already 400K. So I think, you know, it's programmed, and this trend is one that's set to continue.
Yeah, when you look at Easy Eats wallets, it makes a lot of sense that Magic Eden is doing volume of transactions greater than OpenSea. Because if one guy can do that many transactions, you know you're in for a lot. Easy, you know, one of the things that Legend just touched on there is the kind of VC nature of Solana. The fact that Solana itself has VC involvement. A lot of, you know, Sam Bankman-Fried, for example, from FTX is very big into Solana. And I think a lot of people that are thinking of cryptocurrency as money look at that as a bad thing. But when you kind of separate that part, because not every blockchain, not every token is actually money, and you start to realize that there's different use cases for these things, it becomes clearer that centralization isn't necessarily a bad thing. Do you want to expand on that? Because I know you have opinions about that very topic.
I'm very pro VC funding on my blockchain of choice. I get a lot of shit for that, get a lot of pushback, but it's entirely because for me, I just think that there's more funds there. Funds drive innovation, funds incentivize development. It just seems like a clear no-brainer when people that have more money than me are going to be putting in a lot of effort to make sure that things go well. I'd prefer to back something like that, especially seeing the conviction early on. We've seen the peaks that it's gone to. And from that standpoint, we've seen a lot more volume from developers entering the space, transactions like we mentioned, and just overall that growth. I don't think it's going to slow down when you have such large bags behind it. Like, it's just the sad reality. When some people fund things, especially on that scale, they're going to continue to drive funding and innovation for future growth to obviously gain a financial aspect for themselves. But at the same time, in this ever-growing crypto world, I think it's the most interesting part because we don't see a lot of centralization from a funding standpoint. And it interests me. It shows that there's interest from public figures who are open and willing to put public funds behind it.
Very well put. And, when I think about the volume that we've seen in the NFT markets across the different chains, right? The volume on Ethereum, which is the biggest market for NFTs, has largely corresponded to the price of Ethereum and the price of Bitcoin and their ups and downs for this year. Solana, however, has been gaining steam, amid the corrections that we're experiencing in the crypto markets. Jamil, I'm curious, how has the volume on Stacks been kind of performing in 2022? Is it correlated to any of the chains that we're talking about here? Is it on its own trajectory? I'd love to know.
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, first, I want to make a quick point about the VC funding thing too. I think one of the great things about crypto right now is that, well, I was, for example, an early user on a lot of early tech platforms like Uber and Twitter back when I was younger. And I didn't really have the ability to invest in these companies. And from my use of these things, I didn't really see the upside of it either, right? The venture capitalists did alone. And that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. These VCs contributed to the growth of these platforms. But what I think is great about blockchains like Solana and others is even though they're VC funded, anybody that participates in the ecosystem sees the upside as well. You own Sol, the VCs own Sol, right? If they make 100x return, you make 100x return, right? So it aligns incentives between the users and the VCs really well. It almost makes it a great test. If anything, this is the best place for VCs to invest because it aligns the users and the VCs together. You don't see the VCs grow and the users left behind. You both succeed together, which I think is great. With regard to the trading volume, I think for Stacks, we sort of see it. It's definitely tied to the broader crypto market to some extent. I mean, even the Solana price, the Ethereum price, they're all sort of follow each other to some extent. I think Stacks is a little bit more closely tied to the Bitcoin price over some of the other blockchains, because actually in order to mine Stacks, you need to spend Bitcoin. So it's very, very closely tied to the Bitcoin price. If the Bitcoin price falls, then so does Stacks almost on a fundamental level. But again, I think these are very short-term things as well. We'll look back 5 years from now and we'll just be like, why were we even worrying about this? Right? It's a very long-term game, I think, for us. And a lot of people almost price their NFTs in Stacks or in Bitcoin or in Ethereum or in Sol, and they don't even worry about the US dollar price. It doesn't matter how well the token does in US dollars, because the whole economy is sort of like, I get paid in Stacks or I make my profits in Stacks, and this is how my life is sort of oriented right now. And I think that's a great way of thinking moving forward if we want to treat crypto as a base unit of currency going forward. It's not about how it pegs to the US dollar. It's about how the markets and how everything performs within your ecosystem as well.
that's that crypto native mentality, and you're talking about Stacks proof of transfer. I know the buzzwords. I know what's going on.
Exactly.
You know, I have a question for Legend. So Legend, you talked about somebody getting into Solana with just $50. I agree with you. And I think that there are more and more new people, you know, new participants getting involved on Solana. And like for me, I've been co-hosting Easy's show for a little bit over a week now. And it's been pretty fascinating for me to hear the mentality of Solana traders, the culture, and the technical analysis that's provided. To be frank, I'm totally lost. So if somebody's brand new to Solana, what tips would you have for them to get ramped up, you know, knowing that, like you said, there's this ball of money that's rotating from project to project, from sector to sector. And the key is to be in right before that ball of money gets to the project, and you never want to be late, right? So what kind of tips would you have for somebody that's looking to get involved but is a beginner?
Yeah, I think the first step is to do a lot of reading. Like when I got into NFTs in August, I went back to like all these different Web3 accounts, DC Investor. Most of them are on ETH, actually. I read all of his tweets, listened to all his podcasts, did the same for Chris Dixon. That took me like literally a month. But what I did is I went back and I learned about Web3 and I learned about DeFi. And then I went basically into NFTs after that. But if someone doesn't want to spend 2 months, then you can just make a phantom wallet. You can follow some accounts like Soft Money. You can follow me. I think my biggest piece of advice is to not chase pumps just because you're going to be late if you're not, you know, like really plugged in. And, you know, it's better to kind of wade into it slowly with a small amount of money. I feel sometimes people like transfer in a bunch of fiat and then basically go on Twitter, see whatever project influencers are talking about, and just basically put most of it or all of it in. And then, you know, inevitably they're late and they're exit liquidity. So I think the biggest thing is to just find a team that you vibe with and find your tribe and find a community where you enjoy spending your time and the devs are driving value and have a track record of doing so. And then to not overcomplicate it, like just go for a team that you like and that, you know, is building for the long term. And, you know, eventually, you know, Solana mass adoption and everything else that we're talking about here, you know, could take more or less time, but, you know, you're in a Discord that's high quality and you're also getting, you know, good alpha and good information from people in there. And, you know, that's the way I would start if I could do it again.
Yeah, it really is important to plug in, and that community factor, even though it's a buzzword, it really means something. And being on an island in the NFT space, unless you're like some sort of, you know, genius, it's just not going to work out that well. Easy. One sector of Solana that I found very interesting is the gaming side of Solana. The fact that you can actually just play games on Solana right there on the trading platform like Magic Eden. You know, what do you see coming from the gaming sector in 2022? I mean, we're almost halfway through 2022 at this point, and just going into 2023 as far as innovation on the gaming front goes.
Yeah, I think we may actually just see more gameplay. Like that at the end of the day is probably the big thing. We don't have a ton of actual gameplay. Mini Royale Nations is a game that I interviewed on the channel. It gives me that Fortnite vibe where you can get gun skins and avatar skins that are resellable on the secondary market. So that's always kind of how when I try to explain NFTs, I typically use like the Fortnite reference. There's an entire market behind character skins. That's almost one of the easiest ways to hand that over and transition that. I also think seeing the team behind PUBG, the popular battle royale, is another big thing, seeing that they're committing to Solana as their blockchain of gaming choice. Getting some of those things, I just think more and more development is going to keep coming, and we're going to see better examples of actual gameplay. I don't think that games and NFTs are an overnight hit. I think that's probably the longest of the long game, but I also do think that's going to be the most rewarding one. Once more of those start to be playable, like you mentioned, in browser, mobile playing, play to earn aspects. We saw a ton of success with something like Step In, which is a move to earn. So as soon as games that are play to earn get passive like that, where you don't even realize you're using the blockchain, that's when I think we finally see that over the hump and that kind of blow off top for games. I don't know if it's going to happen in 2022 or even 2023, but I think a lot of people agree it's an inevitable thing when it comes to games and NFTs in that market.
Yeah, that's going to be absolutely fascinating. I think a lot of people think that NFTs fill this massive void in gaming and it's a natural transition. All right, well, Jamil, to close out, what do you see in the future for stacks? I mean, I think me, Easy, Legend, we don't know nearly as much about stacks as we do about the more mainstream chains, but it's been on my radar as a Bitcoiner, and I do own the token itself. What do you see coming for NFTs on stacks moving forward?
I really want to start at, in our marketplace. I think there are a few things. The first is on a fundamental layer, we want to be a little bit more Bitcoin forward. So making sure that you can do Bitcoin native transactions to purchase NFTs, unlocking and showing the Bitcoin community how like the potential for NFTs and how much you can do with them in their native currency, with their native wallets, without them having to sort of have to feel like they're dabbling in another ecosystem. So taking advantage of Stacks infrastructure to produce this really great native Bitcoin experience. The other thing that I think is going to be important is one of the things about Stacks that I feel like is advantageous is that because it's more of a long-term platform, we also have the chance to play around with some of the marketplace functionality in a more fundamental way. So right now, a lot of and even the title of this session, right, is about flipping JPEGs, but NFTs are so much more than that. I think Soul Legend mentioned this stuff like governance and all of these different utilities, gaming, and what are ways that marketplaces can showcase some of that better. Right now, it's just you go to a collection and there's a wall of images, right? Whether you're on Magic Eden or OpenSea or even on Gamma. And I think there's a lot more we can do to showcase some of the benefits, some of the functionality, and some of the utility of NFTs beyond just the cover image on the marketplace.
Very well put. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this was Flipping JPEGs in a Multi-Chain World with the extremely diverse panel of Easy Eats Bodega, Solana Legend, and Jamil. Easy and Legend are two full-on legends from the Solana trading space. You can check out Easy's show, Solana Made Easy, on Twitter Spaces, Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And of course, make sure that you follow Solana Legend, always dropping knowledge. And Jamil is the CEO and co-founder of Gamma, a platform for trading Stacks NFTs. So obviously he's no slouch, and you should definitely follow him on Twitter as well. Hope that you enjoyed this session. I will throw to Chris and to Gutter.
Yes, welcome back. Now, let's keep the conversation going. Of course, make sure to follow Stacks on Twitter @Stacks, and also follow Ninja Alerts on Twitter @Ninja Alerts, and keep the conversation going. Use the hashtag Web3Week. And of course, that panel, I learned a lot, man. I had to take notes. I learned a lot, man. I was looking forward to this one. Now, I learned that Solana has a lower barrier of entry, so $50 could go a very, very long way when it comes to gas, especially coming from Ethereum. I know gas costs, yeah, that's a big issue when it comes to ETH. And but the thing about Solana that I'm learning is that people have a very short attention span in Solana. So you have to be very, very intentional with your investment when you invest in Solana NFT projects. On the other hand, though, Stacks, I'm learning a little bit more about Stacks as well. Stacks seems to be the longer term play. There's more diamond hands in Stacks. There's less listings even at this time. If you look at other projects, other NFT blockchains, you can see that more and more people are listing. They're trying to, it's a fire sale on almost every project. But according to Jamil, Stacks holders are holding strong. And also, according to Jamil, Stacks is going to change the world. Yeah, that's what I got out of that panel, Chris. What do you have?
Yeah, love to hear it, man. Love to hear about other chains that I'm not familiar with using. Created my Phantom wallet. I love hearing information about Solana. I do want to point to our next speaker. We do have John Ennis coming up. He is going to be speaking about financializing illiquid JPEGs and the state of NFT instruments. And this is going to be moderated by Trevor Owens. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Trevor.
Well, thanks a lot, everyone. And building on Jamil's point about JPEGs versus NFTs, I did change the title to illiquid NFTs because we have much more in the future for NFTs than JPEGs, although of course JPEGs are important. So just a little bit about me before we get into this talk, so you know where I'm coming from. I'm a PhD mathematician. I did my postdoc in computational neuroscience. I then became a market research consultant, and a lot of the ideas you're going to see me sharing here come from market research and consumer science. I've written about 50 papers and 2 books in that field. I'm the founder of a successful AI services business, and I'm now the co-founder of NeoSwap, which is dedicated to bringing these tools that we're going to share, really the ideas of neo-barter, which are very, very useful to making illiquid NFTs much more liquid to the world. So this talk is about. So we're going to start with a question, a general question that doesn't necessarily apply to have to apply to NFTs, but is very relevant in the NFT ecosystem. And the question is, do people not have enough money? If you think about that, a lot of times the answer seems to be yes, we don't have money to buy the things we want. But actually, we own a lot of things. Oftentimes, people own lots of things and they don't have enough money. So there's this mismatch between they own a lot of things and they don't want them. They want a lot of things, but they can't afford them. So this is this kind of two-sided problem, the problem of mismatched wants, where you have people own things they don't want and they can't find buyers, or they want things that they don't own and they don't have money to buy them, okay? And historically, this, like in the very early days of commerce, this is why barter happened, because people would show up with things that they didn't want and they would trade them for things they did want, okay? Trouble is that's a ferociously inefficient way to do commerce. It becomes very difficult quickly with even 3 people. It's hard to work out best trades. And actually, I'm familiar with this problem because as a child, when I was 12, my parents started to do this strange thing where they would buy Christmas presents for all the kids, then they'd wrap them up and give them out at random and ask us to trade with each other. It was sort of I don't really know why they did it. My dad, I think, thought it was entertaining. And it was sometimes kind of fun, but honestly, it was a little bit cruel because there was one Christmas I got stuck. I had a doll that clearly belonged, it was clearly meant for my sister, but I didn't have anything that she wanted. So I had a video game that my brother wanted. My brother had some Legos. I was trying to work out this trade, this 3-way trade. And this couldn't get it to go through. So I worked on this problem for a very young age. And I was working on it in the background all through my, academic career and then into my consulting. And in 2017, I came up with a solution to this problem. And I'm going to share that with you today. But going back to the history here, people started off trying to do barter. And then money was invented as a way to essentially solve some of the technical problems with barter. But it's only an indirect solution to the problem. When you think about the big picture issue, which is you own stuff you don't want, and you want things that you can't afford, if you're going to get money to buy those things, you have to find buyers for your items. And that can sometimes be a problem if you have an illiquid item, like a used good, or you have a JPEG that your NFT that you're having difficulty selling. So what we're going to share with you today is a new way of conducting commerce that I think is ideally suited to Web3. And what's going to happen over a long time frame here is you're going to see that these ideas, neo-barter, are going to become the native form of commerce in Web3. You're going to have an AI-supported barter that will greatly facilitate the movement of goods around Web3. So what is neo-barter? Well, it's technologically supported barter, okay? And the goal is to find the best multi-way trades between many people. And those items can be goods or services. For our purposes today, they're NFTs. Currency is not required, but the key insight here is that even adding a small amount of currency will unlock lots of trades. So there's a principle, actually. Our head of outreach is in South Africa, actually, and there's this idea from Africa, Sankova, which is looking backwards to take the good and leave the bad behind. And so that's what we're doing with neo-barter is the basic idea of moving goods around is a good idea. However, we've learned currency helps too. So now we're going to bring that together and we're going to apply market research instruments. We're going to actually eventually apply AI. And we're going to figure out very efficient ways to move goods around with minimal currency. Okay, so this is an example of a real neo-barter solution. This was conducted on the Stacks blockchain. Nothing I'm going to talk about today, although we have built on Stacks, and I would say Stacks, I can sing the praises of Stacks all day long. From a technical standpoint, it's really, truly great platform and solution. But we're live on Stacks. We'll be live on Solana and Ethereum later this year. This is a solution from a real trade that happened on Stacks. What this means is that you've got a trade that's good for everyone. So here you have 7 people that have come together in what we call a party. And we found that parties are the right ways to do this. You have events where you have scheduled parties, or you have community events, or you even have impromptu events that are launched from Discord. But you get a group of people together, and I'll show you a demo in just a second. People list items that they want to sell. They set their prices. They pick everybody's items that they want to bid on. Then they set a budget, and when we find this solution. And so what this means, what this diagram means, is that TN is trading away 2 NFTs and is getting an NFT and some stacks. Okay, I'm trading away 6 and some stacks, and I'm getting 5 that I wanted. So from the perspective of every person, this is a good trade. Okay, so we're looking for these trades, multi-way trades that are win-win-win. So if you've ever had this problem in Discord, maybe you're talking to some other people, you're trying to work out a trade, you just can't figure out what's fair. Even if it's just one-on-one, it can be hard to figure out what's fair. These tools will solve that problem for you. If you have a group of people, you have a community, you have a bunch of people, maybe after a mint, where everybody likes the project, but maybe some people aren't happy with the NFTs they got at mint. What you can do is throw a party, bring everyone together, and trade the items around. Then everyone leaves. Everyone's better off. Those items, the NFTs never even hit the market, so the floor price was unaffected, but the community is made better off. So this is very much a Web3 way of doing commerce because it's got the community spirit. We're leveraging the reassignment of ownership through smart contracts. And we have the benefit that we don't need anybody's permission to do it. We can just work out the trade using the blockchain, just reassign ownership on the blockchain. Okay, so let me show you now a quick demo of what this looks like. Now our adapt is further along at this point. This is a demo from maybe a month ago, but it still will give the points. Okay, so let me start playing this. Okay, so this is played on double speed. So the idea here is you connect your wallet. Here we're connecting a Hero wallet, so that would be just like MetaMask or Phantom. Okay, we're going to go into one of these rooms, which is our party. So we're going to have a bunch of people doing a party. Okay, this is me now in the party. I'm opening my wallet and I'm picking different items that I want to trade or sell today. Okay, these are items that I'm looking to get rid of. Okay, no, for whatever reason. Okay, so I'm going to pick my items. Everybody else is doing it at the same time. They're picking their NFTs as well. Now I'm setting my reserve prices. In the current version of the DApp, actually, these values can get pre-populated with the floor price. Right now, I'm just going to go through the items that I like more. I'm going to ask for more money for those. The items I like less, I'm going to ask less money for. You're going to see actually these pieces here, even though they're similar, they're from the same collection. Some of them I want more, some of them I want less. So I have different prices. Finally, here's my last item, save. Everybody did the same thing. Now what you're going to see is the items that everybody has brought to the party. Okay, now I'm going to pick the NFTs that I want to bid on, and I can see the prices that everybody's asking for. And again, in our current version, you get more information. You can get the floor price. You can click on the NFT to go actually to Gamma to get information. Okay, so those are the items that I want to bid on. So I do that. Now, the bids here are just set to be whatever the reserve price, the minimum that people were willing to sell the items for. I have an opportunity here to increase the bid if I really like something. So I did that. Last step, set your budget. This is very important. If you've been to a silent auction where you have held back on bidding because you're afraid you're going to overspend, that can't happen here. You're going to sell some things, you're going to buy some things, and when it's over, you're going to pay the difference if there is a difference, but that difference won't exceed your budget. So you see in about 5 minutes, this group of people got together. I received 5 NFTs, I traded away 5 NFTs, and I paid a little bit of currency. And on the next screen here, you can see, here's the trade that happened. So that you'd never find this trade, right? So here we have 5 people coming together, trying to figure out a trade. You'd never find it ever. But this is good for everybody. From everybody's perspective, this is good. So this is a huge deal. This is going to let all these NFTs that are stuck, 65% of NFTs on secondary markets never sell. I don't know if you know that or not, but it's a huge problem. And you have a lot of NFTs that are in people's wallets that never get listed. People would like to sell them and they can't get any value out of them. Now we have a way to move these NFTs around the ecosystem and everyone benefits. So this is very transformative. Now, if you think about this in the history of economic transactions, we talked about barter, then we have the evolution of currency, and finally, I feel like Bitcoin more or less is the perfect currency. I mean, you can argue about that in terms of privacy, but pretty much, I think Bitcoin is as good as it gets when it comes to currency in terms of a store of value. Then you have the sharing economy, which has been going on at the same time. This is in the Web 2 world. This would be, say, Uber, Airbnb. This idea, there's all this latent value, and we can use UX and we can use the internet to help move goods around more efficiently. That's what's going on in the background. While, I mean, it's kind of interesting, that was happening in parallel with the development of Web3. Then you have smart contracts with Ethereum and Stacks. You've got smart contracts on Bitcoin, that are secured by Bitcoin. You put this all together, you have the sharing economy, you've got smart contracts, you've got the blockchain, and what you finally get at the end of it all is neo-barter. There's a much more efficient way to do economic activity. So this new economy is being born.
This is an AI-powered neo-barter economy where goods and services can be traded directly, value-to-value exchanges with minimal currency. This is very important. I mean, if you believe in separation of like state and currency, you should definitely believe in the separation of state and economic activity. And this is now really moving economic activity out into a decentralized form. So this is a very big idea. In this economy, everyone's a buyer and a seller. Think about in Web 2, you have a lot of two-sided marketplaces. Like on Uber, you've got drivers and you have riders. Or on Airbnb, you've got renters and you have guests, okay? This is an all-sided marketplace where everybody is a buyer and a seller. You can just be a buyer if you want, or you can just be a seller, or you can be a blend. That's a new thing that's coming out of Web3. The goods change hands frequently. The transactions are complex. You need algorithms to find them. They involve multiple parties and they benefit everyone. This economy is also dramatically more sustainable. When this goes out into the real world, which it will eventually, it will have a huge positive impact on the resource usage because so many goods just get wasted. 50% of goods that are given to thrift stores get thrown, they never get used again. They get thrown away or they get recycled. They never get used again. So you have, and that's just the stuff that went to thrift stores. Think about your house. Think about all the things in your house you never use. If you just knew where those things should go, and these tools will eventually help us get there. There's a lot of friction, but we will eventually get there. We're gonna have a much more sustainable economy that starts from Web3 and then grows out. So why is it happening now? Smart contracts are perfect. When you know this when you know this exchange that you want to execute, you can write a smart contract for it. It's like actually a perfect matchup. A smart contract is just a reassignment of ownership. So we're optimizing smart contracts in some sense with these trades. NFTs, I mean, we don't have to convince this audience. I think NFTs are very important. The idea of digital scarcity and ownership, extremely important. Low liquidity, this is a problem for NFTs that we're solving. We have big differences in subjective value. An NFT that's worth a lot to me may not be worth much to you, okay? And so there can be benefit of exchanging. And we can settle on chain rapidly. We have all the benefits of think about the community aspect of Web3 and the UX and ethos of individual ownership, very well suited to this way of doing commerce. And then of course, behind the scenes, we've had algorithmic advances. We have the neo-swap algorithm under the hood here. That once you have data from parties, you can use that to train an AI to predict good trades outside of the parties. So there's all sorts of computational advances that have happened. Okay, so for applications, this is the one we're most interested in today, NFTs, but there are many applications in the real world also. One that's very interesting is divorce. You have two people trying to figure out who should get what in a divorce. That's another solution that's coming. So we can go through that. In the interest of time, I'll just move on. So the benefits here are much more efficient use of resources, more efficient way to conduct economic activity. In the real world, it will have an improved market for durable goods. In the NFT ecosystem, now, many NFT contracts are written in such a way that if you directly transfer NFT from one person to another, that there is no royalty. This will have to change because we're going to have this barter economy where you have NFTs moving around and you have small amounts of money moving around. The contracts will have to also capture some of that value. But there's an opportunity here for NFTs to move a lot and for artists and creators to be benefiting frequently. They could have basically recurring revenue as their items move around. And finally, getting back to the real world, if you have areas that have limited access to currency, like a village in a third world country, where people have items, but they don't really have a lot of money, you could bring these tools in there, rearrange the items in the village. Everyone becomes better off. And then there was no money had to go in. So that's also a huge benefit of this. So if you find this interesting, let's connect. We're looking for aligned investors for our seed round. We closed our pre-seed round at NeoSwap just over a month ago. Our seed round will be opening soon. We're in the Stacks Accelerator and the demo day is coming up. So let me know if you're interested in that. We'll be raising $3 million for the seed round. We would like to partner. We already have partnerships going with artists and community managers, DAO organizers. You could use this for also services within a DAO. If you have jobs that you want to be done, you could list the jobs and how much you're willing to pay for them. People could take on those jobs. Maybe they get paid. You could have a movement of services, of NFTs, and also currency within a DAO that everyone is benefiting from. And then marketplaces. So for example, we've talked to Gamma. I mean, it's very possible there'll be a collaboration between NeoSwap and Gamma before too long. We are also looking for future employees. So contact me, John Ennis, at neoswap.ai. I'm also on Twitter, John_Ennis_BTC. And that's it. So thank you. And now we've got time for questions. I made it with 27 seconds. Should I stop sharing now?
Sure. Well, John, why don't we go in here into the Q&A. Fascinating presentation. Disclaimer to everybody here, I am an investor in NeoSwap. So excited to see all the growth that you guys been doing. So this app is live now, NeoSwap Party. Anybody who has a Stacks wallet and has any Stacks NFTs can participate in your swap parties. Now, are those happening daily, weekly? How does somebody who's watching wants to try out this technology, how do they, try it out?
Yeah. Well, right now we're doing them mostly on the hour during Eastern business times. So if you're interested in that, let me know. There's a party happening every hour. It's usually about 10 to 12 people in a party. We also do private events, so those can just be scheduled as needed. Incidentally, a special case of this is NFT trading, just as it in its current form. If you already know what trade you want to do, that's a type of neo-barter. It's just a very kind of soft form of it, where you've already worked it out. Okay, I'm going to trade you this for that, and you're going to give me some money. If you know what trade you want, we're doing free. We'll just write on Stacks. We'll just write those contracts for you for free. So you can show up. We'll negotiate it and write the contract for you. So we're providing an escrow service as part of our system. But I would say you'll find, even with two people, it's way, way better to get together, list all the NFTs you want to get rid of, let the other person do the same thing, set your prices. You'll get a much better trade than trying to work it out. And you'll do it in like 3 minutes. So it's much, much better to use the algorithm than it is to try to work it out manually.
Got it. So like today, there's going to be how many swap parties? Basically, is it people kind of self-organize? They can see that the party is starting every hour, and then they say, "Hey, John, let's go trade. There's a neo swap party happening in 30 minutes. Why don't we just jump on there and you and I can swap some NFTs?" Is that how it works?
Well, there's two forms. I would say if you want to trade with another person one-on-one, you should just let us do a private party. Okay, because if you show up to a group party and you list your items and the other person lists their items, they could go anywhere. I mean, it'll be better for you, but if your specific goal is to do some trades with one person, you should do a party with that person and just do your trade. If you show up at a party, it's a little bit of a free for all. And so those things can go anywhere. You'll be happy when it's over, but they may not go to the person you want to give them to. They may go somewhere else to another person that likes them even more. And then that person gives up stuff that, the trade will be better, but you might not get what you expect. So I would say if you really want to have one-on-one, you should do a one-on-one party and let us organize it.
Okay, got it. And so right now, NeoSwap is on Stacks. You can go to the website, neoswap.ai, with that link to the parties, or?
Well, there is a link there, but you can go directly neoswap.party. That's our actual party.
Okay, neoswap.party. There's one starting every hour. You can see who's signing up, and you'll be placed into a group. And then basically what you'll do is you'll list all the NFTs you want to sell. Everyone's gonna list all the NFTs they want to sell. And then they get to place sort of bids on the other NFTs. And then in the background, you have developed an AI algorithm from your research that is able to route people in the different ways so that everybody gets something that they want out of it. Yeah. And they say one man's trash is another man or woman's treasure, right? So you end up with giving away the things that you weren't as interested in, and you get things you are interested in, and the algorithm does all the work in the background to make this happen. So can you give us a little bit of insight into how that AI actually works? Like, what is the AI actually doing? Like, how is it figuring out how to route these things and make sure that everybody's always happy? And is it possible to have a situation where somebody actually isn't happy from this trade?
Yeah, when the trades are found, everyone involved will be happy because their situation will have improved according to how much they listed items for and how much they bid on them. So it is possible someone could be excluded from the trade. Suppose you show up and you don't bid on any items. You don't like any of the items, you don't bid on them, okay? And nobody likes your items, then you might get left out. That could happen. Or you don't set enough budget to get the items that you wanted. I mean, you can get left out, that's true. And we have tips about how to get included. But if you get included, by definition, according to everything you said, when you listed and you bid, the trade will be good for you. You'll be, in some sense, making money according to the values that you assign. And I would say, actually, it's interesting. We just did a trade earlier today as an experiment. I took 6 NFTs that I didn't really care for, and I listed them at prices 0. I sold them for free, okay? And then I got 3 stacks. The algorithm, it couldn't help it give me money. So it was a kind of funny situation where I was trying to give it away and I got money. So, because there was value, people actually wanted them, it turned out. So that was a funny thing that happened. But the way it works is we have an initial state, which is based on who owns what. You've got people own items and they value those items. That's the initial state, okay? Then you have the post-trade state, this hypothetical future state, which now people are going to have there's going to be a different assignment of ownership, and there's going to be a different level of utility for every person. So you can imagine you've got the happiness of every person before, and you have the happiness of every person after the trade, okay? What the algorithm is doing is it's solving to figure out what's the correct reassignment of ownership so that the delta, the difference, you've got preliminary happiness, you have post-trade happiness, okay? You want that to be, the difference to be positive. So everyone improves, all right? So we have quantify the benefit to every person of every possible trade. And now there's a theory of it, but you figure out for every possible trade you could conduct, how happy would the people be afterwards, okay? Then for every person, you can figure out what's that gap, all right? Then you do what's called a max-min optimization, where you've got all these people involved. Who's the least happy person? Find out who that person is and make them as happy as possible. So that the floor, you have all these people, imagine you've got little happiness numbers over everyone's head. You want the smallest of those numbers to be as big as possible. And that's the trade that we're finding.
Got it. So you actually optimize for the case that's most difficult first and then on to the other cases, or it's
all at the same time?
It's all at the same time.
Yeah.
Got it. So basically the algorithm is looking at all the potential combinations that are possible based on what people want and what they don't want and how much stacks they have. How important is it to actually put some extra, is the stacks that get traded just based on how much people are bidding for floors, or do they actually have to put an extra field for that?
Yeah, a couple of things. One is a small amount of currency makes a huge difference. That if you just do a pure barter exchange where nobody puts money in, you won't get very many trades. It's actually very interesting. Even a tiny amount of money makes a big difference. Everybody putting in 5 or 10 stacks will unlock tons of trades. And so it is really important. We're not just going back to barter. That's something people say, well, this is just barter. We already did barter. It doesn't work. Well, I agree. Barter's not great, but a small amount of currency does help. And so we can move things around. Now, it is true back in the olden days, you didn't have an algorithm optimizing barter. So our barter solution is still better, but a little bit of money now you can make up for the value gaps and you unlock lots of opportunities. And the thing is, you need way less money than you would if you were going to actually sell all those items and then go buy the items you want. Just think about how much liquidity is required for that. Now you don't need it. It's a virtual liquidity. So, these are big ideas. This is a really big idea. I hope people understand it. Yeah.
I could definitely see it. So basically the bids that you place will then facilitate, let's say I wanted to buy your NFT for 10 stacks, but you only listed it for 5 stacks. The algorithm will use that extra 5 stacks margin to route the currency to different trades as a kind of lubricant to maximize the overall happiness of everyone.
Yeah, well, here's something fascinating. That what lets us make money as a business is actually the thing that helps us find good trades too. That when you list an item, there is a small markup on it, okay? And let's, right now it's 5%. We're playing with that number. But suppose you list something for 20 stacks. The price other people will see is 21 stacks. And that's a good thing because we want people to be happier with the thing they got than the thing they gave up, right? You want these gaps. And so suppose you sell something you list it for 20. I see 21 and I say, all right, I'm willing to pay 26. What happens is you get 25 and I get 1. That's what happens. And sometimes the best solution actually doesn't go with my full bid value. It might be that it sells for 23 and then you get 22. I get the item and then the room gets 1. So it's really like win-win for everybody, including the room. The room wins too. It's like the room is an agent.
That's fascinating. And so what has been the reaction from the people who participate in these parties? When they go in there, they've never experienced anything like this before. I could imagine that, they have no idea what they're going to get. And at the end, they said, I want to sell these 10 NFTs. I'm interested in these 10 NFTs. And then they end up getting 2 or 3, somewhere in there. What has been the reaction? Did they expect it? Did they not expect it? What feedback have you gotten?
Usually people can't believe how good it is, including myself when I do it. I can't believe how well it works. It honestly is the feeling that because it does the most unexpected things where, I send money to 3 different people. And then as a result of all that, somebody who has the NFT that I want gets stuff. And then it comes to me. We can go through, I could show, I don't know, maybe it would be interesting to be able to see lots of these examples, but maybe this is a mistake, but let me just show you some examples and we can look at this because, and we can, we could go through Twitter and see the feedback that everybody has seen. But here's examples of real trades that have happened. In fact, just trades that happened, yesterday or the day before. Let me share my screen. Okay. So this is a real trade that happened yesterday. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you see what's happening. I'm in the middle here. I'm giving up, I'm sending away 2 NFTs that I don't want. This was a situation where I would have happily traded the 2 that I sent away for the 2 that I got, but then I got money also. I mean, I would have been happy just for that trade. And then, yeah, you can see like Hamza here trading away this item and he's getting paid for it. Yeah, we can go through lots of these. Here's a three-way trade.
Interesting. And so in the first trade, go back to the first trade. How many NFTs did you list for sale in this, and how many NFTs did you bid on in order for this trade to happen?
I probably listed about 10, and I probably bid on like maybe 5 or so, and then I got the 2 that I really wanted.
Interesting. So those are the 2 that you bid the most on out of all of them.
Yeah, that's right. Let me see. I mean, some of these are just amazing. Oh, here, there's a one-on-one trade that happened. That was fun. Look at this. Yeah. This is 2 independent trade networks that emerged from this. So you see there's a group of people trading over here. Like this is just found that.
That's fascinating. So, but if I bid, is it like the one I bid the most for is most likely to happen, or is it more to do with the spread between what the other person said it was a reserve and then how much premium you thought it was worth?
It's everything all together because it's the whole group, right? It isn't just what you did. It's what everybody else did too. And all at the same time. That's the thing that really makes this work is there's been great mathematicians who have worked on this problem. Like George Danzig is someone very important who looking for solutions where it isn't just, one-on-one. The whole group, we optimize all at the same time for the whole group. And it may be the case that someone outbids you on an item, but you still get it. And the reason for that is that person may have also liked another item that you didn't like. And it's better to give that person the second item and let you get the first item, even though you were outbid, because then at least the person with that other item, they got rid of the item they didn't want. The person outbid you, they're happy because they got something they wanted and you got what you wanted. And so it's a simultaneous global optimization. That's the thing. So it's almost like if you were to have this like net, it's like meshed together like this, it's all at the same time. It's not just like one part of it, it's all together.
Yeah, I mean, this is why we need AI and why AI is going to be doing more in our future, because it boggles the mind how this is even possible, and no mere mortal could do this. So right now it's on Stacks. People can go to neoswap.party to sign up. They should buy some Stacks NFTs, and they can bring some of their friends to trade in a group together. They can organize their community, and so. Where do you go next? Are you looking at Ethereum? Are you looking at Solana? And then from a business perspective, what can I expect from you in the next 6 months coming from NeoSwap?
Mm-hmm. Well, first off, in the next 6 months, we will be live on Solana and Ethereum. So that's coming. And also worth noting, these trades are just the first part because we get lots of data in the trades. Then we have an AI behind the scenes that is proposing multi-way trades to people who've been to the parties, maybe on items they've never seen involving people they haven't partied with. So you have this whole second layer that will just be all the time running to try to move around NFTs around the ecosystem. We're going to go to Solana next, almost certainly. There's just a bunch of kind of practical advantages going to Solana next. Plus Solana is really growing. And so from a business perspective, it makes some sense too. We will be on EVM compatible chains. We have code actually to run on Ethereum right now. Just we have a lot of things going on and so we have to do things in the right order. So that's all coming. Yeah.
So you said you're going to Solana first or Ethereum first?
I think Solana. We haven't totally made 95% Solana next.
Interesting. And what made you choose to go to Solana before Ethereum? Is it gas prices or?
Well, there's 3 things. From a business perspective, it's really growing quite fast. You've got speed. It's very, very, very fast, which is good for us because when you're done the trade, ideally you want to sign that contract immediately while everyone's there. The biggest practical issue, and one of the reasons why neo-barter hasn't taken off sooner, is friction. It's definitely friction if people are having to wait to sign that contract. So with Solana, that contract just appears basically. And so everyone signs it and then they're done. So there's that. And then of course, gas, and there's a bunch, it's a little bit of a multi-objective optimization problem there too, but that's probably what we're going to do.
Yeah. I suppose if there's trades being run from different angles, it could result in a lot of gas fees, the bigger the bigger the party, right?
Yeah, we haven't gotten into gas optimization yet, but that is something we'll have to think about. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, John. We're out of time. Any final words? Where can people follow you? Say again how they can participate as well.
Yeah, well, I'd say follow me on Twitter. So John_Ennis_BTC, and then neoswap_AI on Twitter. And we make announcements there. So anyone that was listening, is this interesting to you all? This idea of these multi-way trades? Is that okay? I hope so. I hope you like it. We're really excited about it. And people who do it really like it too. So all right. Thanks.
Thanks, John. We'll turn it back over to our hosts.
Fascinating. Wonderful presentation, John. I really learned a lot. I knew very little about NeoSwap going into this, and now I know about it. And also, Trevor, great job on the moderation, repping the Ninja Alert shirt. If you're watching this, this is presented by Ninja Alert, so be sure to check that out. Check us out. But yeah, NeoSwap, the Web3 way of doing commerce. I thought that was an awesome way to word it. Web3 has this crazy thing to where there's so many win-win scenarios that I never thought was possible. But with Web3, I see every day that more and more of those are possible. And just the party trading aspect is so cool to me. I've never even thought of that before. I might have thought of like, oh, it'd be cool to trade my NFT one-to-one based on something that's on chain, but I never thought of the party trading system. So just being able to hear John speak about that really gets me excited to go check it out myself, and maybe even pick up my first Stacks NFTs while he's on Stacks right now. And as you heard, maybe Solana next. So I'll take it to you, Ken. What's up, man?
Well, yes, of course, we got to keep the conversation going. Use the hashtag Web3Week. And I know I said I've been excited about every other panel, and this is no exception. I'm also excited about this upcoming panel. It's titled Pixels and Shovels, Tools to Level Up Your NFT Game. And of course, if you're in the NFT space, you need tools. You need tools. You can't just invest, blindly invest and hope for the best. You do need tools. I can't wait for Dave from NFT Butler, straight out of Switzerland, to come through and tell us a little bit more about the tool. We have Michael Gold from Shadersverse. I believe I met Michael back in NFT LA, so I can't wait for him to tell us more about Shadersverse. And of course, we also have Evan from Inspect joining us on this panel. Again, I'm excited. I can't wait for this one. So I'm going to have to toss it over to Trevor for the next panel.
All right, good to be back here now talking about NFT tools. We're joined here by some amazing guests. I want to go around, guys. Why don't you just give a brief intro to yourself and tell us about your company. We'll start with Evan, then go to Michael, and then go to our friends at NFT Butler.
Make sure I'm unmuted here. You guys can hear me okay?
Yep.
Awesome. Hey, Trevor, good to see you again. So everyone, I'm Evan King. I'm the co-founder at Inspect. Brief intro, and I think we'll get into the product a little bit later. But our goal at Inspect is to become the social intelligence layer of Web3, as we coin it. So we're utilizing machine learning in order to make sense of the vast amounts of on-chain transactional data combined with off-chain Web3 social data in order to help users make informed decisions while they're navigating this brave new world that we know and love so much. So for the time being, we've been focused on NFTs. That's what we'll talk about today. But our aspirations are larger. We want to grow and span all of Web3 here sooner than later.
Thanks, Evan. Hey, Trevor. My name is Michael Gold. I'm the co-founder of Shaderverse, and we make tools for professional artists to make NFT collections without coders. So we built an open source add-on for Blender, and Blender is the world's most popular open source 3D software. And this tool allows artists to make NFT collections all within the Blender UI, either 3D avatar collections or complete parametric art, generative art collections. And these collections, since they're made inside of 3D software like Blender, they can render out as 2D art, as JPEGs, or as 3D art GLB files, like actual 3D files that can be brought into different virtual worlds or different game engines. So we're really excited about the future of NFT collections and where they're going when professional artists have the reins.
Hey, Trevor, nice to see you again. David here from NFT Butler. NFT Butler is we built NFT trading automation tools, primary bulk bidding in the past, but covering more and more use cases like automatic flipping, auto selling, and everything that a flipper needs to automate his everyday flipping business. And I'm here today with Benjamin, my co-founder. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Benny, you want to say hi as well?
Sure, yes. Hi, everyone. So we started our NFT Butler journey like December last year, and Dave and I, we already know each other from kindergarten. So we feel like home in the NFT space. We were always gamers and grew up together. So it's awesome to build tools in the Web3 and NFT space together.
Awesome. So going back over to Evan, tell us a little bit about your tool today. Who is it for? Who should go and use your tool, and what can they do with it? Yeah, Evan, unmute. There we go.
Cool. We'll get the hang of that, I swear. So Inspect today is currently made up of two core products. First, we have our Chrome extension. And the goal of the Chrome extension is to help users effortlessly learn more about NFTs in their communities, all without needing to leave Twitter. So this is for both novices, people that are new to the NFT space, also for people who are more experienced and been here a while. But the way that this works is that we use artificial intelligence in order to automatically recognize NFTs on your Twitter feed, their profile pictures or images that are in tweets. And if our system identifies them to be an NFT, then we render a small little Ethereum or Solana logo respectively in the bottom right-hand corner of the image that users can click on to pop up a modal or a pop-up directly over their Twitter feed with all the relevant information about that NFT. So who's the current owner? How much did they pay for it? Is it currently listed? If so, for how much? Attributes, collection descriptions, floor price, all of this. And then maybe most interestingly, it also shows you all of the other individuals on Twitter who are using an NFT from that collection as their profile picture. And allows you to directly connect and follow and build community from the tool, again, all without leaving Twitter. So it's really the information you want most when you want it, and in the place where we all spend so much time already. And then our second product is our website, nftinspect.xyz. I encourage people to check it out. And this was originally meant as a companion to the extension, but has grown to be significantly more. The website illuminates much of the social dynamics that underpin and are really so essential to NFT collections. So as we all know on this panel, I think NFTs are so much more than just the pixels on a screen. A lot of the real value is derived from the community that is organized around the NFT projects. And what the website helps you do is it helps users to understand the strength of these communities as well as the individuals that they're comprised of. So we have trends and rankings of NFT collections based on a combination of social factors as well as individuals, ranking and trends of the individuals in the collections. We can let you know which collections have the largest presence on Twitter by way of profile picture or tweeted about most frequently. We can also show you all of the members from any collection ranked by reach, so that if you're a new user who's interested in joining a collection or has just joined a collection, you can know who are the accounts that I should follow in order to best integrate and become a member of this group or this collective. This, of course, helps for community building. It also helps for alpha, which are the ones that are gaining strength and trending and maybe where I should put my capital. But both of these products help us make progress towards our larger mission at Inspect, which is to give users these data-driven insights to help them make informed decisions while they're navigating Web3.
Awesome, Evan. I love the Chrome extension, and I hope you can make it over to Stacks soon. So Michael, what about Shaderverse? So who is Shaderverse for, and what can they do with it?
Sure. So Shaderverse is for professional artists who are working in the 3D space or want to get into it, and people taking the production or creative direction role when it comes to making an NFT collection. And what we do is we essentially allow them to make one-of-one art, 3D art inside of Blender, and start with that, and then point and click their way to making traits and attributes for a up to 10K or 20K collection. And we've had a few different types of clients. One, people who want to make a brand new NFT collection, and they've partnered with 3D artists, and the artists have been able to download our add-on and start creating the project all inside of one Blender project and make a collection. And the other types of clients that we have are people who have an existing 2D collection with traits that are already generated, and they want to make a 3D virtual world ready, augmented reality ready version of their 2D JPEG using existing metadata for all of their current holders. So it's not an automatic process. We don't use automated features for that. The artists actually have to create all of the individual attributes that the JPEG might have in 3D. But then once they do that, the process for assembling the final 3D models and rendering it out, and even pairing that with 3D animations, becomes incredibly easy for an artist to do. So these are Pro Tools. It's all made inside of Blender, and the learning process for it is really, the learning curve is really pretty light for people who already know any 3D design tool. And even for people who know 2D design tools, if you're familiar with Photoshop and iMovie, things like that, it's kind of intuitive to pick up, especially with the wealth of content that's out there on YouTube.
Awesome, Mike. And I've seen some of the results that you guys have had from the artists using your product, and I really I think it's fantastic. So now over to Dave. Who is NFT Butler for, and what can they do with it?
We'll actually let Benjamin answer this because he is prepared for the question.
Awesome. Yeah, can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
All good, right, awesome. So NFT Butler is for different types of clients. So we have the NFT collector. So if you would like to increase your share on an NFT collection, NFT Butler is the best tool to use, because basically it's a full automated NFT bulk bidding tool and pushes out up to 6,000 bits per hour on any collection hosted on OpenSea currently, but we're also looking to integrate other marketplaces. And you can just push out your bits a little bit below the floor price to hopefully catch some more of those NFTs from your favorite collection and start holding on to it. But the majority of our clients are basically NFT traders who are just pushing out those bits between 30 and 40% below the floor price, and then just crossing fingers to someone is in need of fast liquidity and will hopefully accept your bid, so you can get those NFTs cheaper and then either make a quick profit by flipping it for the floor price or a little bit higher, because sometimes you get even NFTs with rare traits just for low bids, or just hold on to it and wait to let the floor price increase.
Awesome.
And it's really easy to use for everyone. So we have newbies using it, but we have also professional traders who make tens of thousands of bucks every month. It's really for everyone. It's a nice and handy UI designed to make NFT trading very easy for everyone.
Awesome. Yeah, and as a developer myself, what I really like about all three of your projects is I know how hard it is to build what you guys have done, and that's what really makes me think these tools are really valuable, and that I'm looking forward to seeing where you guys go in the future. And so with that in mind, I'm turning it back over to Evan. I'm going to combine actually two questions into one now. So next 3 months, bearish, bullish, what are your predictions? And then 2 years from now, okay, I know that 2 years in NFT world is like 10 years in meat space here. What do you think the NFT space is going to look like in 2 years? And
yeah, so for the 3 months, really for both of them, I'll leave predictions to the experts. Who am I to say? It's anyone's guess. But what I am bullish on, certainly in the 3 month and 2 years, is that regardless of what the market conditions are, folks like us are going to continue to build. At Inspect, we're going to be building no matter where the market is. I'm sure all the folks in the panel will be doing the same. So hyper bullish on Web3 in the long term, NFTs in the long term. I'm sure of that, regardless of what the next 3 months brings. As for where we're going to be in 2 years, I'm fairly confident it's going to look nothing like what it does today. The NFT market is largely saturated by speculation, and that just can't possibly sustain. So, that said, I think digital assets are here to stay, and they're going to have some longevity, but we'll see a transition to things like soul-bound tokens, as Vitalik, the founder of Ethereum, references quite often. These are things like putting non-transferable achievements on chain, a vibrant resume of sorts. The rights to physical assets we'll see go on chains, deeds, things like this. Access tokens to clubs, communities, that will all happen. But for the JPEGs that we know and love today, I think there's probably only 3 realistic outcomes. The first is a small number of collections are going to survive and thrive and become massive global brands. Maybe this is the Bored Ape Yacht Clubs, the Doodles, maybe there are others that haven't been around yet that will come and fill these shoes. I'm also optimistic that one-of-one art is going to continue to thrive, and that one-of-one artists are going to be able to continue to make a living off of NFTs. One of the great unlocks of Web3s is what it can do for the creator economy. And I think that this is an outcome that we all hope can sustain into 2 years. And then lastly, I think that utility projects are going to become more and more important, including the organization of people into communities and collectives with shared objectives. It's this innate human nature to aggregate that, Web3 blockchain and this technology has unlocked the ability to do this at a global scale and much more seamlessly. And I see that staying and thriving beyond that 2-year mark that you were asking about.
Awesome, Evan. Thank you for that great answer. Michael, next 3 months, bearish, bullish, predictions, and then in 2 years, what could you imagine the NFT space to look like?
Sure, totally. So I also, I've been in tech for a long time, so I think everything is cyclical. I don't know whether the pendulum's going to swing back towards the bull run in the next 3 months. So I think this is a great time to build, but I know it's going to be back eventually. For predictions, we are educating the market and predicting that there will be a big advance towards 3D avatars and 3D assets from these 2D digital assets based on the traits. We've signed contracts with top tier collections to that effect, and we'll be making some announcements at NFT NYC. But if you think about the numbers around it, if you have a collection that's doing like 1,000 ETH a month in volume, and you're taking 5%, you're making 50 ETH a month in revenue for your company based on that collection. You need to keep innovating in order to keep people trading, for people to think that the collection is going to grow. So we see making a 3D version of your items as a way to do that. And I think especially with the way that Yuga is going to educate the market with other side, however that shakes out, the team that they're working with is really top tier in terms of the 3D game space. So I see that pushing forward slowly but surely, and I think over the course of 2022 that'll start happening. That's really where I see the next big shakeout.
Awesome, Mike. Dave or Benny, 3 months and 2 years. What are your thoughts and predictions?
I can. 3 months, more on the bearish side. It's as it was previously said, like we're gonna continue to build, and a lot of hyped and Discord grinded communities and projects will die. But in the long term, I see my bet is on 2 things, like the digital assets, like in-game items and collector games will have a hypes at some point and will play a big role. And also like the everyday utility will just be normal, that it's gonna happen on NFTs, like booking a hotel room in advance, and shouldn't you need the room, then you will just sell your NFT for that reservation and stuff like that. So it will just slide into the normality, and excited to be on the builder side of all of this.
Awesome. Benny, anything to add?
No, I think, yeah, it's great to build. Now we have time to build a lot, and I see NFTs changing the world in so many different use cases. And I think virtual property is going to be a big thing in the next years, and also for the upcoming generations. So really looking forward to be part of this. It's great to be here. Yes.
Okay, awesome. So now another more specific, like trading type of question. And maybe you guys can also answer from the perspective of data or what you guys are working on. If you were starting over in the space today as a trader and you had 1 ETH to start with, as we discussed, we may be going into a bear market. We may see a small pick back up, maybe leading into NFT NYC here. What would you do? How would you form a trading strategy today with 1 ETH in this new environment? And Evan, let's go back to you.
Sure. Yeah, my trading advice. Well, first of all, I would caution people to not take my trading advice.
And this is not financial advice, everybody.
Yeah. And I make plenty of mistakes. There's no doubt about that. I'm probably more negative than positive. But that being said, I think two things are really core and important, especially as we move forward. The first being community, which, as I mentioned, is so important at Inspect, and we see the value of the communities behind these NFT projects. Look for a community that's active. Look for a community that's providing joint value. And then the second thing, which is really investing advice as old as time, is invest in people. We haven't done enough of this in the NFT space. There's degen minting, you mint anything that comes out. But as the space is maturing, these NFT projects need to be run by businesses. And ultimately, you want to find NFT projects for which the leading team have experience running businesses, and you believe their mission, you believe where they're going, and you trust the people who are running the project. So those are the two core things for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Evan. Mike.
Yeah, so similar to what Evan said, I've probably made a list of mistakes in NFT trading that I could tell people what not to do. So I'll start with that. One of the big mistakes that I think a lot of people avoid now is I minted some of a project that I really believed in and then bought in above mint price pre-reveal. So I would not recommend doing that. Because a lot of people, once the items are revealed, they sell, maybe even sell for below mint price, and that's a really great time to jump in. So I'll leave it at that with my trading strategy. But what I really liked in the photo NFT space, that's one of the things that we're going to replicate with Shaderverse, is Justin Aversano's Twin Flames collection was just 100 pieces. It was a photo series that he did of twins, and I had the opportunity to buy into that at like about an ETH, and I passed. And now they're trading for God knows how many ETH. So I think giving artists the ability to do that, to make series in terms of 3D art, that's one of one quality, but in a series, I think is really something that can be both artist driven instead of hype driven, and not necessarily needing a company behind it, because the artist is the sole pusher of that. So that's really what one of the things that I'm really excited about building and investing in.
Awesome. Dave or Benny, if you were starting over, just 1 ETH.
Yes. So with 1 ETH, so actually I would start with a free trial week of NFT Butler and invest that 1 ETH into bulk bidding. No, to be honest, I've tried a lot of different NFT trading strategies in the last 12 months, and I failed on a lot of them. And I really think bulk bidding is the easiest way to do profit if the main goal is just investing and selling and doing profit. But as the others already said, most importantly is really the community. So we do also provide some data analytics. So to keep your risk low, it's really important to only do bids on collections which are alive. So have at least, a decent amount of sales every day. The community needs to be very active. There needs to be a strong belief and a good roadmap. And then I think you're on a pretty safe side to do bulk bidding. And especially in a bear market, when people are fearful, we have seen more people are accepting low bids below the floor price. So it was actually easier for us to do some quick flips on NFTs if people are in need of quick liquidity. So that worked pretty well for the last 2 months for us.
Dave, any additional thoughts?
Nothing to add.
Okay, cool. Well, we're running out of time here, so going back to Evan. Any final thoughts or words of advice for anyone watching as someone who wants to get into NFT trading and they want to figure out, hey, what can I buy and hold? And then also, where can people follow up to find more about Inspect?
Yeah, so the first thing that I would say is if you're new and you're just getting started, create a crypto Twitter. Create a Twitter account. You can make it an account not associated with your name. Put a PFP as or an NFT as the PFP, and then go download our extension. So you can find that at nftinspect.xyz/extension. And this will help you learn about all the NFTs that you're seeing on Twitter. It'll get you kind of ingrained in the ecosystem, start to use our website in order to understand what collections are trending, what people are talking about. And that's a really good starting point for you to just get the general zeitgeist of the NFT ecosystem. So that would be my advice. In order to find us, at NFT Inspect is where we are on Twitter. That's where we put out our announcements. At Oaklyn, OAKLYN King is my Twitter handle. Feel free to give me a follow, shoot me DMs. Happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Mike, how about you? Any final words, and where can people find you?
Yeah, sure. So if they want to check out what 3D NFTs are capable of, you can just visit shaderverse.com on your mobile phone, and then you'll be able to check out some of the collections we made in augmented reality, all without downloading anything. And then if you do want to make NFTs and you want our Blender add-on, just go to github.com/shaderverse/shaderverse, and you'll be able to download it and install it.
Dave or Benny, final words?
If you want to learn about bulk bidding and get hands-on with NFT Butler, join us on Discord GG/NFT Butler. We are there to onboard you. If you're a pro trader or a noob, we're gonna onboard you. See you there.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone. Really appreciate having you. A lot of great things discussed today. Let's hand it back over to our hosts.
Thanks, Trevor.
Yeah, you got it, Ken.
Again, Web3 Week is brought to you by the Stacks Foundation. This is only day one, Chris. It's only day one, and we already have all this valuable information. Now, Shaderverse, from my understanding, it is for professional artists to launch projects through Blender. So I haven't had to use that yet, but I am keeping my eye out on that app. And NFT Butler, I do have a little bit of experience with NFT Butler. Cool tool, bulk bidding tool. If you're in the NFT space, you're gonna need something like that tool. Now, this is my first time hearing about the Inspect Chrome extension. After this conference, I'm going to go download the Inspect Chrome extension. It sounds like it's going to be very, very useful, man. Again, Chris, this is only day one of the conference, man. All this excitement, Chris.
Yeah, I'm super excited too, man. We have had the honor of interviewing NFT Butler in the past, and that tool is so cool. And then the Inspect, yeah, I was just able to see it for the first time the other day. And sure enough, you can also see how influential people are in those communities just by clicking that little ETH icon. So super cool tools that we just discussed. But we are going to move over to our next guest. We do have, as announced at the beginning of the show, Brittany Laughlin and Munib Ali. Munib is the founder of Trust Machines. Brittany Laughlin is with the Stacks Open Internet Foundation. So we'll move the stage over to you guys.
Hey, it's Brittany from the Stacks Foundation. I'm very, very excited to be joined here by Munib Ali. Munib, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and your involvement with Stacks, and then let's dive right into the early boom of NFTs and your experience with that.
Absolutely. So I'm a co-founder of Stacks. Started the project. I think the project came together around 2017. And now I'm a co-founder of an entity in this ecosystem called Trust Machines. And Trust Machines focuses on building applications on Bitcoin using Stacks as kind of like the platform and the technology there for it. So we are very excited about building kind of like new, exciting applications in this ecosystem. And obviously, if there's any work required on Stacks, the underlying platform, we are happy to kind of like contribute to the open source code and do that work as well. So we recently raised a $150 million round of funding. We have some capital. We're actively hiring. So if you're interested in building on Bitcoin, you should definitely check out Trust Machines and all the open positions that we have right now.
Awesome. Well, today we'll get into a little bit about NFTs on Bitcoin, which is enabled by Stacks now, but there was a time when Stacks didn't exist that NFTs were being first created on Bitcoin. So Muneeb and I, we actually go way back to like 2014, worked in crypto. I was an investor at Union Square Ventures. We invested in what is now Stacks. So back then I remember it was very, NFTs were unheard of, and they didn't really come to Bitcoin until much later. So I don't know if you want to go over some of the experiences you had, Muneeb, with the early things. I have one that's definitely mine. Happy to jump in with too.
Yeah, so I think my background before Stacks is I did a PhD in computer science and kind of like started tinkering around with Bitcoin around 2013. And I came from a very kind of like distributed systems world, and I was interested in the technology and the infrastructure. But the really exciting thing, I would say, between the 2013 to 2016, 17 era is that a lot of new innovative things were being tried out on Bitcoin. So most people don't know this, right? Because I think the industry has moved so much, and Bitcoin has evolved as more like a very stable base layer that you don't hear about experimentation happening on Bitcoin that much. And I think there's a very rich history there that should be explored. Like, for example, colored coins or early ideas about building marketplaces, NFTs, even DAOs. They actually originate all in the Bitcoin community back in the days. And NFTs literally started on Bitcoin, right? So there was a project called Counterparty in around 2015 and in 2016. They implemented full-fledged NFTs literally on Bitcoin, right? So most of those protocols back in the days, they would literally embed all of the data on Bitcoin, right? Which is obviously became a scalability challenge for Bitcoin. And later on, Ethereum came around with a much more expressive programming language, and a lot of these developers basically started building on Ethereum. But NFTs actually started on Bitcoin, and I think maybe Brittany, you can relate to that as well.
Yeah. So my first experience with Bitcoin based NFTs was back in 2016. So I was working at Union Square Ventures, and my colleagues were telling me about these NFTs. So maybe if you're old school Bitcoin, you know these. This is a rare Pepe. And rare Pepe Cash, I think, still trades in certain places. But these were kind of the first like tradable game that was getting some mainstream adoption beyond the core Bitcoin community, like Muneeb said. And they had basically like rarity scores you can kind of see here. Obviously, it doesn't have quite the shine or shimmer of these latest NFTs that are 3D or animated or very high pixelation. So yeah, this was my first experience with Bitcoin NFTs. And I think, Fred Wilson, who's one of the investors at Union Square Ventures where I worked, I think made this point that like, this was a really cool experiment. It's like a game of like trading and memes and crypto assets. So this was 2017. But if you go back and kind of read this article about, these tradable digital scarce assets and how exciting they are that they're on the blockchain, it really sounds very similar to like the same excitement we see today. People are buying them because they think they're cool, because they feel like it like resonates with them, why they want to use it, or they want to trade them, or they want to kind of show off their status with them. So, going back to that day, there were a lot of rare Pepes and some early interest in them. Here's some other great rare Pepes that exist. Like I said, the quality of taking a meme and then like remixing it in all these different ways was kind of the core of rare Pepes. And that's why some were more rare or not. But again, as you can see here in 2016, there was still this hodler and like to the moon. So when people think like NFTs are just a fad, they've been around for a very long time. You know, we're 6 years since this, and I think they've just continued to get better. So like moving forward to kind of like more modern, I have some examples, but I'm curious, Mani, you know, what you've seen in the evolution of NFTs on Bitcoin. You know, we've seen thousands of new projects launched on Stacks and even bridges to Stacks to be able to bring NFTs over. So I'm just curious what your experience has been with those.
Yeah, I think 2017 onwards was a pretty interesting time because 2017 is, I would say, the year when the Bitcoin community became more conservative. Like they were always like very careful, but I think after the block size wars, they even became much more defensive. That hey, Bitcoin, the base layer, is kind of like never going to change, and I can understand the reasons for it. And at the same time, like Ethereum started gaining more developer traction because it has a more fully expressive programming language, like full smart contracts. So a lot of the developers who would be tinkering on new ideas on Bitcoin, they actually started doing that on Ethereum, right? So 2017 is when I would say the first major project, CryptoKitties, took off, and the CryptoKitties were so popular that they basically jammed the Ethereum network. Like Ethereum was unusable, and I think that's where, like, I think some of the computer scientists, even in the early days, were pointing out to how Ethereum is not going to be scalable, but no one kind of like really took them seriously until the CryptoKitties stuff happened, when people actually saw that, oh, wow, the network is completely jammed, you can't use it. And I think this is where scalability research became very important. And I would say in all different communities, right? So Bitcoin took the approach of scaling in layers. So Lightning is a scalable payments layer. And then that's when the Stacks project really started, like around 2017, when we did the first offering. And Stacks is kind of like a scalable smart contracts layer for Bitcoin, right? So we understood that to build things like Rare Pepes, you can't do it on chain, like literally on the base Bitcoin chain. It needs to be a more scalable separate layer that kind of like settles on Bitcoin, right? So you still benefit from the security and decentralization of Bitcoin, and the ownership is defined by Bitcoin. And in the Ethereum community, people started working on layer twos, ZK rollups, all types of kind of like scalability solutions that are coming online now, right? And similarly, a bunch of people kind of like started their own blockchains. So these are the three, I would say, different schools of thoughts. One school is that, hey, I'm going to build on Bitcoin and scale Bitcoin. One is I'm going to build on Ethereum and scale Ethereum. And the third is, hey, I'm just going to go and start a completely separate blockchain. So we, in the Stacks community, we're actually in the first category over here. And interestingly, our mainnet went live in like Q1 of last year. And since then, we've kind of like seen a revival of Bitcoin NFTs, which is, I think, very, very interesting.
Yeah, especially I think with, you know, some of the interesting things that I've seen is that, you know, there's been, you know, I think last year was definitely the year of the NFT. Like, you know, we saw some of these examples from before, but last year we saw it come to new levels of just getting new people onboarded into crypto for the first time. And you made this point, like when CryptoKitties crashed to the Ethereum network, it created all of this new research and this new innovation. And I think that we've seen that with Bitcoin NFTs as well. So with the boom of new NFT holders, new creators, new tools, it's really required us to step up our game in terms of like wallet security and like how can these be tradable and how can you get all the data that you want for something. And people are asking the questions of like, what is the final settlement of my, you know, of my NFT? Is it on a chain that I know and trust? Is it on something that I think is going to be around for a while? And I think there's been a strong interest in Bitcoin NFTs exactly for that reason. It's a chain that has longevity and there's a lot of value that's locked into the Bitcoin ecosystem. So people are really excited about building, you know, their works or holding works that are held in the Bitcoin chain. So that's pretty exciting. I mean, I think Satoshables is a pretty interesting one. I think you're familiar with that as well, but they went so far to say like maybe ETH NFTs should actually come home to the Bitcoin chain. I don't know if you want to share a little bit more about Satoshables.
Yeah, I came across this project. It's actually my profile picture on Twitter. It's a Satoshable that I own. And the reason, I mean, I I was interested in kind of like the art and the idea behind the project as well. But I think when it really caught my attention was when they were implementing a bridge for NFTs, where NFTs could be transferred over from Ethereum back to Bitcoin. Because I think it makes people like ask these interesting questions, right? Like that, how is the ownership of my NFT defined? Can like if especially like if you own an NFT that is very valuable, you don't want to take the risk of like, I'm not saying Ethereum is a pretty kind of like mature network at this point, but if you're talking about hey, will this network be here 30 years from now, or will it exist in the same form that it exists today 30 years from now? I think the probability that some smaller blockchain might disappear might actually be much higher than a more established network like Bitcoin, right? Especially when Bitcoin has found product market fit as a simple base layer that basically is just trying to be hard money. All Bitcoin does is like gives you the 21 million Bitcoin, and then it's a settlement layer. So you can settle all sorts of different things on Bitcoin. And as long as Bitcoin is alive, that settlement lives there. There's a little bit more technical detail there that it's not just a settlement, but the data, the rest of the data needs to live somewhere as well. And that's the role that Stacks plays. So Stacks in a way is providing this data layer as well, like where and the rest of your NFT data and smart contracts can exist without polluting the Bitcoin base layer. And you could always verify the integrity of that data by checking the settlement or the hashes that happen on Bitcoin. So that's actually a very scalable approach of doing this. And then with tighter integrations with Bitcoin, you can even trade these things directly against BTC, or you can even move them around by doing Bitcoin transactions. I think there's some more work required so when people can have that UX, but that's entirely possible, and a lot of developers are kind of like working on that. That will be a very interesting UX experience actually for a lot of new people, where they can just have a Bitcoin wallet and they can do a Bitcoin transaction and an NFT just shows up in their wallet, right? Like that would really feel like a very tight native experience for Bitcoin NFTs.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you mentioned that developers are working on this. If you're a developer and you're interested in that type of technology and that tighter integration with the Bitcoin chain, there's a lot of great work happening through the Stacks Grants program at the foundation. I know Trust Machines is thinking a lot about these different integration layers. And if you want to learn Clarity, we also have a free education. Clarity is how you build things on Stacks, and that's a helpful way to then be able to build on the Bitcoin chain. So if you're interested, it's not just about NFTs, it's also about the things that unlock all these new types of NFTs that can exist. So kind of zooming ahead to like 2022, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the cool examples or just like interesting projects we've seen on Stacks lately. I have one that like kind of has caught my attention. It's caught my heart with what they're doing. And that's called City Packs. So City Packs started with this idea of what if you could use NFTs to fund good in your local community. So these are the packs, they're little backpacks, NFTs, and they come in all these different kind of colorways and have different charms, which have different rarities. But the mission was really to empower communities by increasing educational resources. So the sale of the NFTs, the value of that goes towards funding different community programs. And with City Packs in particular, they are starting with Miami Public School students. So Miami-Dade Public Schools, they've minted their 3D NFT backpack collections as a way to help fund education about Web3 in these schools, being able to provide resources to them, and potentially being able to create NFTs that they can give to students that, using the power of stacking, which is a native functionality in Stacks, they would actually be able to earn Bitcoin over the life of them holding that NFT. So there's some really interesting ways of thinking about an NFT as a visual representation of a community you belong to, a community you want to support, a mission you want to support, and this kind of new idea of like, how do you earn towards these things? So I think that they're doing really cool stuff. I know that you can still mint these if you want to do that in support of Miami Public Schools. I know they've also done a lot of work with like City Coins, which is another project that's built on Stacks. And they also have their own NFTs. So there's a ton of Miami coin NFTs that you can purchase just using Miami Coin that have unique functionality too, that all ultimately tie back to the Bitcoin ecosystem. So how about you, Manib? Any other projects you want to kind of highlight? I know you have quite a collection. But...
Yeah, so I think I mentioned Satoshi Bills already. It's kind of like currently my profile picture. I think the other profile pictures I've had over the few months would be one is the Crash Punks collection. I think it's pretty popular in our ecosystem. And that's very fascinating because I'm a big fan of like Snow Crash. I think some of the work behind Stacks is actually somewhat inspired by Snow Crash. For people who haven't read that, they should definitely go and read Snow Crash, and then you'll be able to connect some dots for how that predicted a lot of the metaverse type of concepts and even digital money and so on. So I think anything that's a nod to Snow Crash and this culture of like these 90s type of punk culture around technology, like that's very, very fascinating. And obviously, some of the other larger collections that we have, like Megapont, like I've followed that project along. I own some, so that was super interesting as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I think that there's just like a lot more opportunity of allowing people to build on Stacks. So if you haven't mentioned an NFT yet, it's, there's lots of ways that you can do it. There's a ton of great platforms. I'm sure you've heard from many of them today in this program, but I do think that the opportunity to mint at very low gas fees, it could go as low as a few cents, maybe up to $1 when it's high network volume, is a really great opportunity as a way to get into NFTs, whether you're minting your own or you're, supporting a creator that you love. So we're very supportive at the Stacks Foundation. We want more people building on Stacks, no matter what your vision is for that. So I want to just go over some of the ways that maybe the foundation can help you get started if you're just new to NFTs.
Yeah, and one thing I'll add is one thing that was very surprising to me, but in hindsight it makes a lot of sense, is when I started seeing a bunch of Bitcoin culture being represented as NFTs through Stacks, right? So I wasn't expecting that, but looking back, it actually makes a lot of sense because a lot of these communities, if you go to Ethereum or Solana or other places, people are expressing the culture of that community as NFTs. But on Bitcoin, at least for the past 4 or 5 years, there wasn't any NFT movement, and those artists or those people who feel a very deep connection to Bitcoin, they couldn't express that. And I think once this revival of Bitcoin NFTs through Stacks, we started seeing some of that, right? So people are building like Bitcoin pizza or Faces of Satoshi and all these other things that are culturally significant to Bitcoin. That being expressed as a Bitcoin NFT is, I think, a very powerful thing, right? So I would say still Bitcoin NFTs are a relatively unknown concept, even within the Bitcoin community. So I think more if you're an artist and you're thinking about building something new, one very interesting idea could be NFTs that are targeted towards educating Bitcoiners about the Bitcoin NFT space, and also like raising donations for funds that they care about, like Bitcoin development or the free Ross movement or other types of things. I think these are the things that a lot of Bitcoiners like deeply care about. And if you can actually fund some of these causes through Bitcoin NFTs, like that could actually be a win-win type of situation as well.
Yeah, we already in our network, we've seen stacking for causes. So people contribute some of their Bitcoin that they earn from stacking towards causes, but maybe you could be stacking your NFTs for causes too, which I think that's a really cool idea. And I think we're seeing some teams experiment with that. Yeah, just to kind of, again, welcome builders, anyone, our chain has been growing incredibly fast. Since the mainnet launch, there's been, these numbers are a little outdated, but, millions of transactions on the Stacks chain. We've seen thousands of Clarity smart contracts deployed. So if you're new to Clarity and you're looking for an NFT contract, there's a number out there that are open source that you can adopt for your own project. We have a great community that's very welcoming and helpful to answer any of your questions if you're just getting started. And at the Stacks Foundation, our goal is to support builders. So, we have a number of free education programs to really welcome the next 10,000 Clarity developers. We also want to deliver value from these other networks. So maybe if you have experience with one network and you're just getting started in Stacks, there's a number of bridges that that are being built right now that have already been announced. It's a very exciting way to kind of transfer your skill set. We've also funded $1.5 million worth of grants to builders already this year, which is twice what we did all of last year. So the community is growing, and there's a lot of exciting projects that are being built, some of which are in relation to NFTs. And earlier this year, we ran a program called Mintery, which is specifically focused on accelerating NFT creators. So artists who have visual artists or audio artists who wanted to create their first collection. So there's a lot of exciting news coming out of this cohort that you'll see this summer with various launches. And then the last thing I wanted to make sure and mention is we're hosting Unmutable, which is the event this Friday. It's a digital event, part of Web3 Week, and it is specifically focused on NFTs and music. So how you can think about digital goods beyond just visual goods, and how you can help unlock by supporting creators or supporting your favorite artists. So we're really excited to have these industry verticals to be able to serve these different emerging communities and answer any questions that you have free of charge, just trying to make sure that people can get the education that they want and then the access to the things that they want to build. So yeah, our ask is, let's build on Bitcoin together. Like whatever your vision is, whether you're a creator, whether you're a developer who wants to help unlock some of this value or make it easier for creators, there's a lot of ways that you can get involved through stacks.org. I know that Trust Machines is also doing some really exciting stuff. So I'll let Manib plug before we hand it back to our host.
Yeah, I think one thing I would say is maybe we can use a little bit of a time to go over the frequent questions that we get from builders. Like if you're a new builder and you're thinking of like building, let's say Bitcoin NFTs, I think there are some common questions that we get, and maybe it's worth addressing some of them. So one question that we get a lot is, what about the environmental impact of Bitcoin mining? Right. So there are some blockchains out there that are really positioning themselves and marketing themselves as like being more energy friendly. And I do think that there are two things to kind of like keep in mind. The first thing is that some of the attacks on Bitcoin mining, that information is not entirely correct, right? So there are actually some more independent studies being conducted. A lot of the Bitcoin mining is actually through renewable resources, and it is actually solving this problem of like excess energy that some people have, and instead of kind of like wasting it or flaring it up, you can actually use it for more productive things. But the work that Stacks is doing as a programming layer for Bitcoin is actually very fascinating, because Stacks is actually recycling some of the electricity and the work that has already happened to produce Bitcoin. Right? Stacks does not require more proof of work, and it can actually settle thousands of. So if there are, let's say, thousands of transactions that settle on a Bitcoin block, you're effectively reducing the per transaction cost, energy cost of applications, because the applications can actually just do the bulk of the transactions on the Stacks layer, similar to how people do bulk of their payments on the Lightning side, right? So that's how you're bringing the energy cost per transaction down by orders of magnitudes, right? So that's very interesting. So the Stacks layer, if there's one takeaway you can have, it actually does not use proof of work energy. It's actually recycling Bitcoin's proof of work through this new consensus mechanism, which is very interesting. The second question that we get is, why do you need this separate layer? Like if I want to build Bitcoin NFTs, why can't I just do that directly? So a lot of people have tried that, right? This is what Counterparty was back in 2016. I've personally done work where I built on-chain protocols on Bitcoin directly. And over there, I think the main thing is scalability, right? So Bitcoin is likely going to be the chain where block space is very, very expensive, like in the sense that, especially if you want to write a lot of data to Bitcoin, you will drive up Bitcoin fees by a lot. We saw that in 2017 and so on. The Bitcoin chain is designed so that normal people with normal laptops, even Raspberry Pis, can actually run a full node, right? So you cannot put like an insane amount of data in the Bitcoin chain directly. And it also lacks programming abilities, which is like there by design. So it has a very, very limited type of a programming language, and you can't really program complicated NFT marketplaces and so on. So this is where Stacks comes in. It's a separate layer. You're not changing Bitcoin at all. And what you're doing is you're saying, hey, the Stacks layer will keep the additional data that shouldn't be shoved into the Bitcoin main chain. And the Stacks layer would give you the more expressive smart contract capabilities that are not present in the base layer. So I think this is the reason why the separate layer approach is actually the thing that helps kind of like scale out Bitcoin NFTs, because you're still, the property that you want is settlement, right? The settlement is still happening on Bitcoin. Same with transfers, like, with some more of the tools that are coming online, you'll be able to effectively just own the NFT on a Bitcoin address. Like at that point, like you can plug in your hardware wallet and kind of like do a transaction from a Bitcoin address to transfer the ownership of an NFT. And that is the property that you should care about, that the security and the ownership of the NFT is actually defined by Bitcoin. But otherwise, we are kind of like not polluting the chain, right? Like we're not trying to write too much data to Bitcoin and increase the pain of Bitcoin scalability, right? Like we're doing that in a very Bitcoin friendly manner, in a way that basically helps Bitcoin and brings kind of like new use cases to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, talking about scalability and speed, there's a number of new upgrades coming to the network this year. There's been a very active community across many organizations working on these. Like Trust Machines is working on hyperchains, which basically add even more scalability to Stacks. So you can imagine that, Bitcoin gets a scalability with the Stacks network, and then even beyond that, more speed, more opportunities to be compatible with other chains. So there's a lot of exciting updates that are coming. So if you're new to being a builder and you have questions about where to get started, we're happy to help with that. But if you're building for a while and you're excited about some of these upgrades, they are coming very soon. So I don't know if you want to highlight some of the other things that are in the works, but I know that there's some exciting stuff coming.
No, absolutely. I think it's great that you mentioned some of the network upgrades, because anyone who's used Bitcoin would notice that, the average Bitcoin block time is like 10 minutes, and you might be used to like much faster blocks on other chains. They're kind of like making decentralization trade-offs. Like they might be less decentralized, and that's why they're giving you the faster speeds. But what Stacks is doing is that it still does Bitcoin settlement. So meaning eventually all the data is settled on Bitcoin, but we can actually give you much faster speeds in between that 10-minute window, right? So the user experience is still really nice. And that's the type of stuff that's going to roll out in the coming months. Right now, if you go and you try to mint an NFT, you'll kind of like feel that you're running on Bitcoin time, right? So you might have to wait 10 minutes, but that's fine. I would much rather settle on the most secure chain and wait a little bit longer.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to hand it back to Kennedy and Chris from Ninja Alert's NFT Trader Show. Thank you, Maniv.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Wow. Thank you, Brittany and Maniv, for that history lesson and just the overall lesson that you can build on Bitcoin. I know it took me a while being in NFTs to actually realize that Bitcoin did have NFTs. I always thought when I was getting started that it's like, okay, ETH is for NFTs and Bitcoin, I'll just buy and hold it. But they are building on Bitcoin. And who would have known one of the first NFTs was a Pepe? Like that threw me for a loop for sure. Thank you guys so much for the history lesson. And as they were saying, this was interesting as well. It's not even fully proof of work because they do recycle the energy that's being used. That was really interesting and new knowledge for me. Guys, if you're following this, make sure to keep up with the hashtag Web3 Week on Twitter. Check out some of the guests. And if you have any questions, like I said, reach out to Stacks. Overall, that was extremely interesting and a great history lesson. Thank you again, guys. All right, Ken, you want to tell us about the group we have coming up?
Oh, yeah. Again, make sure to follow Stacks on Twitter at Stacks, STACKS, at Stacks. Now, I'm kind of sad because this is going to be our last panel for the night, Chris. And how excited I've been. My glasses are starting to fog up, man. Oh, man, this is going to be the last one. It's called Alpha Leaks, getting my first 20 ETH in profit. We got to pay attention to that one because 20 ETH is a good amount of profit right now. And we're going to have Brett Malinowski from Magic Mushroom Clubhouse joining us. We're also going to have Hunter Orwell Sandoval from Future Proof joining us. We're also going to have Trapo Farmer from Future Proof joining us. And of course, Malachi from NFT Culture is going to be joining us. And this one is going to be moderated by Matt Medved from NFT Now. So I'm going to go ahead and toss it over to Matt right now.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Matt Medved, co-founder and CEO of NFT Now. We've got an incredible panel today. We're going to be talking trading NFTs. Why don't we kick it off with just a brief round of introductions? Brett, Hunter, Tropo, Malachi, everybody, bounce around, give everyone a little bit of background and how you got into NFT space.
What's going on? My name is Brett. I'm an NFT YouTuber. I think it was back in late July when I started my YouTube channel talking about just basically basic NFT alpha, how I was successfully trading NFTs. Shared that with my audience. If they had a 9-to-5 job, hopefully I could kind of at the end of the day, give them the bullet points, what projects I was looking at and share that with them. Since then, I found a few projects, my first profile picture project being the Magic Mushroom Clubhouse. And since then, NFT Academy and WG Mind Media. So I've done a few things in the space, in the building side and trading side. So that's me.
Love it. What's up, everybody? Hunter. I run Future Proof, which is a investment and advisory company. I got started in this space like most other people, flipped some NFTs, made a profit, and decided to go all in. Since then, I've done everything from the investment collecting trading side to forming DAOs, as well as starting a few businesses in this space. So very excited to be here and chat and share the journey.
Hey, Tropo Farmer. I work also with Hunter Rao at Future Proof. Started in NFTs back in February of 2021. Very, very quickly fell down the rabbit hole and have been degenning 24/7 since then.
And shit posting.
And shit posting. Very important. Thank you.
What's up, everyone? It's Mal, NFT Culture. I've been in the space for about a year and a half. Really came on board for the art and then fell in love with Bored Ape Yacht Club and then fell in love with all the degens that I'm sharing this stream with and many others, and just having the time of my life, being on the forefront of a new asset class and technology.
Love that. Love that. Why don't we kick it off? We have some incredible degens here. We got some accomplished and decorated degens in the building. So I'd love to just start, for those who are starting to get into it, for each of you, like, what are the sort of the fundamentals of your trading strategy when it comes to NFTs? Like, what percentage do you have that you're actively trading? What are you kind of like? What is sort of like the lay of the land look for you as you think about like where you're actively trading, what you're holding that are more long-term holds, and how you kind of differentiate between different assets?
Yeah, so for me, I'm a really utility-focused NFT trader and more so of a long-term holder at this point. I really like to spend a little more time on the front end doing research and having an investment thesis where I kind of have more conviction in the community or the team. I just think that's very important for most NFT traders because it's very easy to get sucked in with the hype. Everyone's saying it's the next Bored Ape Yacht Club. So for me, I think Treeverse by Loopify is one of my favorite projects. I think that they have a long-term vision with their game. They do a very good job of communicating their progress, what the team's doing, how many people they have on the team, just giving consistent updates about how their art is being progressed, how the game is being developed and whatnot. And so I look for projects with like true intrinsic value behind them. People actually, buy this NFT because they want to access or utilize the utility of the community or of the project, whether it's a flipping tool like NFT Nerds, or really just any of these alpha groups, these alpha passes. I think those do very, very well. And so that's kind of been my focus. Of course, I do like to participate in, the Goblin Town, the meme type of projects that are coming out right now. I think those are very short-sighted opportunities for me. And I've been caught holding a lot of bags and my hidden folder is not a pretty sight right now. So that's my general thesis in investing in NFTs.
Yeah, I would probably echo a lot of that, right? Like I find that I balance between short-term and long-term holds. Obviously, you want to buy something that you're happy just owning, and that you see either the value in it or you see that like, hey, I love this art and I don't care about price. I'm buying it for me. I have a lens that I look through, which is like if I'm buying something, it has to hit like 3 channels, which is authenticity, community, and creativity. I think when you look at something like Goblin Town, which is like the talk of the town right now, it hits that, like, it's authentically that culture, and it's built this community, and it's creative. Like, it's a direction that nobody's kind of tried to do a project behind. Stuff like that, when it hits those three, I'll buy into, and then depending on how I feel about it, I'll hold for a certain period. I will say also, I think we're moving to access as a very heavy area that people want to participate in. I think that's why you see collections like Proof, Admit One. I even have my own access. Like, people want that sort of access to knowledge and projects and whitelists. So I definitely see that becoming another area that I'm focusing on right now.
Yeah, I think Hunter put into words what I feel is like I just buy and trade based on vibes. And I think that's kind of what Hunter broke it down to. It's something that's definitely learned by being a part of Twitter and Discord and seeing how people react to certain projects. So if something just vibes well with me, then I'm going to give it a bit of a deeper look, and definitely not immediately FOMO into it, but give it some more consideration. I will say I'm a horrible trader, by the way. I've just gotten lucky a few times. That's my advice. Just get lucky.
Yeah, I just wallet peep these guys and follow what they're doing. No, I mean, I do think that there's a couple different things that, when you look at a project, make sure that it's something you're comfortable with. Starting out, especially, don't spend more than you can afford to lose, is one of the things. But also, don't be afraid to get those quick flips, especially if you're a newer trader, where, if you can make 100% profit on something, if it goes from point 1 to point 2, and you can do that all day long, don't swing for the fences nonstop, especially if you're earlier. Build that bag so you can take some bigger risks down the line, is typically, what I would advise people to do. And I still try to do that. But it's tough in the market. There's too many things going on right now.
But I would say, not to like take over, but that's why you got to come into it with a plan and say, okay, I'm buying this at point 1. My target is point 2, or I'm buying 4 of these. I'm going to sell as it rises, and then I'll hold this one for the long-term play. Come into every execution you do with a strategy and then follow it. Don't be like, oh no, I'm feeling really, really good. When you come into it, follow your plan. Don't diverge from it, and you'll certainly find yourself, I think, finding more wins.
I love that. I think that's all really, really good as a basis. And yeah, obviously it's an unpredictable market. Things challenge our expectations all the time. I'd love to hear for each of you, just in your own experience, like what would you say your biggest W and your biggest L in NFTs were, and what were the lessons that you learned from each?
So by far, my biggest W is probably Wolf Game. I caught that really, really early. And that was a good example of just perfect brand cohesion from every aspect. I read the white paper. It seemed like a relatively innovative idea. They really solved breeding by adding the risk factor to it. And then just seeing how well put together just the overall brand was, the font, the actual little GIFs that went along with the actual process. It was a no-brainer for me. And I went pretty heavy in at 0.04 of when sheep were at 0.04, and the first night that the white paper dropped. And so that was easily over around 60 ETH profit for me realized. And that was probably one of my personal biggest off of a single collection by buying multiple, my biggest conviction play. And then biggest loss, probably buying the crypto's top. And that was just a single NFT. I really bought into those exclamation point vibes. So probably I learned very quickly that was not my investment thesis, and I needed to stick to my plan of utility or just genuine innovations.
I think my biggest.
Go ahead. I mean, I think we're gonna tell the same story, but
are we? Mine's definitely BAYC, my biggest win and my biggest W. So biggest win being getting in day one, and I didn't acquire many. I was pretty poor back then, but still just holding on, having conviction in the project, the community, being rewarded for that throughout the year. But then that ended up being my biggest L because I just sold those things too early. You know, I had to take my own advice and have more faith in the project that I have really honestly the most conviction in, and hold even when like things were down. You know, like, for example, I minted a bunch of mutants for 3 ETH each, which, you know, granted that's a lot of money. And then December rolls around and things go down, and I'm like, I gotta sell. You know, I gotta get some profits here, which is a good attitude to have. Don't get me wrong. Like, profit is profit. And then May happens and they go up to 40 ETH, and I'm like, I just lost 35. I don't know what if 35 ETH in profit in some cases. So if I'd only just had more conviction in this project, I would have, you know, been rewarded quite handsomely.
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree with that. Board Ape Yacht Club here as well. But I think a more notable win was when, you know, when me and Trobo hadn't even met. He lent me 4 ETH so that we could buy a Twin Flame. We bought one for 8 ETH, and then held it over like 6 months and ended up selling that for like 130, I think, or it was 125.
Yeah, that was a big one.
And that was a big win. I mean, I remember sitting in my corporate job cubicle in the middle of the office, probably not acting like you should act at a corporate office during all of that happening. So that was a huge win, very exciting. My biggest L probably to date was probably extending a little too far into the Magic ecosystem. I probably lost like 35 ETH in that process. So that was that one hurt. That wasn't just like a flesh wound. But I think the lesson, and I want to walk away from everything like learning something. My lesson there was like, don't overextend. I didn't have a plan. I completely was like, let's see where we are in a year. And obviously I'm holding still, but it just was a mixture of like not having a plan, too overextended, and kind of following hype and not having that own conviction, some of the plays I had made.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's Board Ape Yacht Club as well. From a win and a loss perspective, I bought in at 0.2 right after it launched. I still have one, but I sold one for 0.5 so that I could take Hunter's approach in terms of being able to free roll, not knowing what the future held. But a different win, just because this is something that's really cool about these types of communities and the type of trust and friendships that we've all made in our own small circles and broader circles, and the stuff we run into at VCon and everything in between. But I was lucky enough to be invited. I was in one of the secret Discords, and a group of us talk all the time, and we had the opportunity to within 10 minutes, basically, we had the decision to make. Do we combine 120 ETH to go buy the second rarest Azuki? And blind trust, 10 of us sent one person 10 ETH to buy the Azuki, and formed the Red Bean DAO, held it for about 2.5, 3 months, sold it for 420 ETH, pretty quick flip. And it was a really interesting thing for me because, one, it was my biggest outlay of capital. I'm typically a pretty conservative buyer. I don't buy things after they typically go above 2 to 3 ETH. So to outlay 10 ETH and blindly send it to someone I've never seen in real life before, along with 9 other people, and really embrace that DAO ecosystem, the trust and everything with that, and then actually get the money back times 4 was really exciting, and it was a big win, and it was a lot of fun to just be in the ecosystem with them.
Oh, those are great examples, super illuminative. Yeah, for myself, BAYC definitely my biggest win, just having that and holding on to it, being able to kind of reap all the benefits. And one of my biggest L's was actually like opportunities I haven't taken. Like one of my biggest L's was like, I forgot to mint my punk shoes for Artifact. Like, had the punk, could have done it, just didn't get around to it, didn't realize it was going to expire, and that would have been what, like 3 clones, all the monoliths, a lot of potential value lost. And part of this, one of the things about winning in the space is paying attention. And really always like just being on it. And it's really tough when there's so many platforms, there's so many different, messaging chats and groups and Discords and all the like. And so how do each of you keep up with the NFT space in a way that helps you kind of maintain your trading edge?
Yeah, so for me personally, I'm lucky to be surrounded by a lot of really smart traders who do it full time. I've helped a few of my friends launch their own alpha passes since they've been such experienced traders. And so I have very close friends that are doing it all day, every day, and have then themselves surrounded themselves by amazing teams of alpha callers who literally sole job full time all day, every day is just straight alpha. So luckily I just get filtered straight for me, curated on a perfect plate. They give me like 3 projects that they're looking at every single week. And I usually just trust those people that are smarter than me. So that's kind of my go-to. I highly recommend people being around, like if you're going to take trading seriously, and now in a landscape where it's much more competitive than it used to be from these stories that we used to share, I think these data tools, like I was a huge Nansen.ai guy when I started out, but now they've evolved even more. Like I mentioned earlier, NFT Nerds is extremely useful. And so these people are, it's all about just like stacking the deck in your favor, giving yourself the biggest edges possible, and then trying to be around other like-minded people who are taking it very seriously, because you're all getting different information. You can kind of come together, mastermind that. You're in a way better position to succeed.
Yeah, again, I will echo the alpha chat. I mean, I have an alpha group called 555. I go in there and they're always talking and bringing stuff to me. There's other alpha chats I'm in groups I'm a part of as well. Twitter, DM groups, text groups of friends. That like being able to like read through that and get pinged or like see things that are happening or see what the trend in your social circles is really helps. I think the other side of this is also like trying to identify if you're falling into a routine and then like reevaluate it and break out and like test other things, because when I look at like Goblin Town, again, not to bring it back, but I think it's a very relevant example. My circles were not talking about it per se, but had I gone into some of these like other areas that are like social circles talking and just been like, oh, what's being talked about in this Discord or this alpha chat, you would see it, and you would see that there was like that culture and excitement and that fire happening, even though it wasn't happening in like my normal area. So definitely always like trying to find something new.
Yeah, and I'll echo that. There's the good parts of the alpha groups and there's the bad parts. I think part of the challenge is humans are fickle, especially in a down market. But also like finding your tribe, once again, like the Red Bean DAO example, and having that level of trust. And it's great when it's working well, but you spend so much time with one group that all of a sudden, you either all FOMO in together and now you're all holding bags, or you're going to miss some really good projects. And so making sure that you do spend that time that Hunter alluded to, not using only one source, and really spending some time going out there. And then the myriad of tools, you can see some of the momentum with tools like Ninja Alerts and some of the others. So if you do follow certain people, you don't necessarily have to be always actively engaged from that standpoint. But it is tough when you're part of this group and you guys think you know everything, and then you see something like a Goblin is doing what it's doing, and it hurts a little bit.
Yeah, totally agree. Don't rely on one set of people. Try to get as many opinions from a bunch of different groups if you can, and if you can afford it to. A lot of them cost money. Like you said, like one group might just get so married to one project and those bags that they don't realize that something else is happening entirely. So seek out other viewpoints and realize that everyone has their own motivations.
Yeah, I think that's super helpful. And as you mentioned, we are in a market downturn now. It's easy to trade a bull market when everything's popping off. How has the bear market and this current downturn changed your strategy and your approach in trading?
Yeah, so for me, I think this was for a lot of people as well, just a hard look in the mirror, and you really start to evaluate, do I benefit from this NFT? Am I actually utilizing why I bought into this project? And if not, I think a lot of people made the hard decision to cut their losses and get out of some projects. A lot of people realized very quickly that they were playing with money they couldn't afford to lose, and really had to just make realistic decisions again. And so I think this was a good reset and a good shakeout period for people to kind of wake up from that euphoria phase that we were in. But for me, I mean, I had to take that same advice, just make sure I really double down on the projects that I had conviction in. And now was this last week or so was a time where I decided to double down, like really live up to my conviction. So dollar cost averaging, if you believe in these projects, if not, just cut your losses and get out. I think really, really wanted to make sure I had a clear understanding and a clear thesis is the term I always use to why I was in projects.
Yeah, I think everybody's gone through a day or two where they just look through their wallet and they're like, what needs to go? What do I have that shouldn't be in here? I think from the trading side, I haven't bought much. But it makes sense why we're seeing like the free mint model do really well, because there's very, very low downside for these minters. And right now everybody's thinking, will I lose money? On the other side of it, I have seen some paid mints do well, and I would still buy, because now more than ever, I'm saying, who's involved with the project? What are they doing? Is there a way that this redefines what the typical PFP is or utility project is? So I'm really putting an emphasis on that, the authenticity, community, creativity, as well as what are they going to do that's different? So I'm totally happy to pay for a mint, but at the same time, very, very strict guidelines and being very attentive to who is building it.
I just have so much shame right now of what I've spent money on over the past year. Just looking at my wallet, I'm like, my God, why did I spend so much money on these things? But that's the nature of this game that we play. So I think, just being a little more thoughtful with my purchases and really, taking a very, very hard look before I spend any money. Because my situation is I've got a family, I've got kids, I've got higher financial obligations. So more than ever, it's important for me to preserve what capital I've earned in the past year.
Higher financial obligations, like buying a new toilet yesterday?
Listen, that was not my idea, by the way.
That's awesome.
But yes, I did reward myself, and that's also an important thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point, is turn some of the fake internet money into some real fun and joy, especially if you have a family, I've got young kids. Take them on a trip, do some fun stuff, get outside, get some sun, take a break. Yeah, these markets are great for getting out there and taking a break. But one of the things that's really interesting about this is that, and I've also been buying some art. There's some NFTs that from Nifty Gateway and artists that I've loved, that because the market's cooled off, it's a great time to go and support artists that you really like, as they've kind of paved the way for a lot of this current ecosystem. But to the point, we are definitely in a bear compared to where we were before. But if you look at the lens on a more macro scale and kind of look at a year over year view of this, last May, it was the total for the month was $140 million of OpenSea volume. Even in this awful bear where we think the world's going to end, there's still between 30 and 50 million of activity on OpenSea, and 10 million more on LooksRare. So it feels really bad compared to kind of the peaks that we were in. But for those of us that have been here that year and a half, a year ago, the total volume was so much less that this is a healthy market, and it's going to survive long term. We just got to bear with it and get some sun.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It's always important to zoom out and remember that while there always will be this market volatility, it's part of the nature of the space. The overall trajectory is quite promising, and it's up. I think, Hunter, you bring up a great point with Goblin Town, because it is an example of a kind of a dark horse project that a lot of people didn't really understand or really have on their radar, that found success despite this market downturn. It's been also interesting to see just free to mint in general as a model. It was notably seeing G Money launch his Admit One membership as a free mint. I'm curious to hear, I want to give the opportunity to speak a bit more to the free to mint, but also any other trends that you're seeing right now in the market that you have an eye on, or that you think could really manifest as we continue to sort of navigate this downturn.
Yeah, so for me, the free mints really speak two things. One, it kind of makes the project unfuddable. And two, it really just shows conviction in the project founders. Like, who's going to sit there and complain about a free mint? And then secondly, I mean, that really does show that the founding team is betting on making a quality product if they're betting on keeping the cash flow positive aspect of their business solely dependent on royalties, which is very difficult these days. And so to see these people have very strong conviction in that, it just gives a sign of trust and confidence in me as a consumer holder. And so I just think with Goblin Town, they did a perfect job of building a cohesive brand, fully committing to every aspect of the project, unique angle, having the courage to go onto Twitter Spaces and just make weird sounds. And then even the font choice on their bio is just like perfection, the icing on the cake. And so I think that's really what attributed to their success. But future trends, I just think we're going to go more and more like I have the strong opinion that NFTs are not a business. They are a function of a business, just how like you're not like an NFT or an internet project or an internet company. You're just a company that utilizes the internet and has a website. So I think that's the direction we're going. Short-term trends, definitely the free mints. Clearly we're seeing like these meme projects right now is like the current meta. But if I could predict the next meta, I'd be a billionaire.
Yeah, so free to mint, again, echoing what he said, he's got really good points this entire time. The free to mint has probably also set a lot of people that have been fudded for wanting to just put out like art. I think it's given them more room to say like, great, like I'm going to do this like free claim and it's more about the art and I just want it out there and I want to have holders. And I think that's good for them. But I certainly think it's also pushing more to this idea that NFTs are part of something else. It's not just, hey, you're paying for this token. In my mind, and projects that we're working on right now, we're looking at, okay, when you're paying for something, what does this token actually do to elevate a certain experience? And so then that becomes like utility access and these different things that, you know, when we talk a lot about Web3, people think about replacing and completely changing industries. I like to think of like, how are we improving incrementally existing infrastructure through this technology? Sure, in some cases it might completely redefine it and, you know, you have to start from the ground up. For a lot of these though, it's can we take an existing model that works well and make it work amazing using Web3 technology? I think that's the next trend we're going to see.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think one of the big things that we're challenged with right now is the utility aspect and going back to being fickle and the amount of attention we can give. You know, even if you have a CloneX, Bored Ape Yacht Club, a Zuki, and a Moonbird, you can't spend that much time in all those Discords and your alpha chats to get all the insights that you need to have meaningful relationships. And so I think one of the big opportunities moving forward is, you know, artists like Miguel with S1C, who's coming into the space. A lot of the artists that have spent the year and a half exploring NFTs instead of running in and taking our money and leaving for good. I think NFTs do represent that combination of, you know, what Hunter and everyone was talking about before, that access. But when we do think about access in the more general term, as it becomes more important for those communities to be onboarded, and the utility that comes from, okay, how do we augment things that exist versus airdrop every 3 months in perpetuity so everyone gets a little dividend, is going to be an important factor. And even with the stuff that Basie announced with, you know, Ape Fest and finally having a way to get, you know, turn our NFTs into Web 2 access to ticketing systems and everything else, I think we're right on the cusp of some massive innovations that are going to be really interesting, both short term and long term.
Great. Well, look, we got a little over a minute left, so I think why don't we just do a little bit of a lightning round? Everybody go around, just a few pieces. What are some like really important pieces, like parting wisdom, advice for those who are looking to enter NFTs, who are looking to succeed in trading, those like pearls of wisdom that you've really learned from your experience? Now's the time to share.
Yeah, so big opportunity in trading NFTs. but ultimately, as this technology develops, there's going to be multiple opportunities. Just like it was hard to make a website in the year 2000, Shopify came along and totally changed the game and made it easy for anybody just like you to capitalize on making an online store and growing a business that way. So stay involved.
For practice good security.
Oh,
sorry, Hunter.
Yeah.
Get a hardware wallet. Learn how to secure your assets. Learn to protect your money. It's very, very, very important. Do it immediately, and save money for taxes if you're in the U.S.
Amazing. For me, it's if you're getting into the space, the first thing you should buy is a notebook, which is like a dad answer. But go grab a notebook, sit down, look at the market, watch what people are saying. Listen. Don't go and act. Listen, get a gut feeling, understand, and then start to execute when you're like, oh my God, I know what's going to happen.
Most projects exist to take your ETH away from you and nothing else. So be very cautious.
Well, I think tons of wisdom here. Thank you all so much. This has been a great panel. We are out of time. My parting word of wisdom would be to just get involved. Web3 rewards those who show up. So there's no better time than now if you're not already involved. So I want to thank all of our great panelists and turn it back over to our host.
Hey, welcome back, man. Of course, this show is brought to the NFT. It's NFT Day was brought to you by Ninja Alerts, and make sure to visit the Ninja Alerts Twitter at Ninja Alerts and keep the conversation going with hashtag Web3 Week. Now, last segment, man, I've learned so much, man. I am a little sad it's coming to an end though, Chris. Like my glasses are starting to fog up. I'm gonna have to take it off, man. It's starting to fog up. It's like so much information. Last segment, I learned information is very important in this NFT space, like very important. It's good to diversify your alpha groups. Make sure you follow some respectful people, like the people that just spoke, like check their YouTube, NFT Culture, the Magic Mushroom Clubhouse, the Future Proof. Like you just got to diversify your alpha. The information does make you money in this space. So that's one of my takeaways. What was your takeaways, Chris?
Yeah, man, just like you said, I'm just soaking it all in. I really appreciated the different outlooks on different topics. I do have a couple of notes, again, just things that stood out to me. I mean, earlier today when we were talking about floors are for flippers, just reiterating just some of the good things that were said. Isa's talking about don't be the last one at the party. Ken, I know me and you both been the last one at the party, you know, the last one bag holding. And it's not a good feeling to be. That's such good information. Mitch talking about like if you have a small amount of ETH, just to savor that stack and learn the market. That's such great advice. Griff keeping his eyes forward. And again, JJ, I think one of my favorite quotes of the day is it's a pay to earn market. You gotta put in your hard work money sometimes and just, you know, get rugged once or twice and not let it happen again, man. You know, pay for that learning experience. John just explaining NeoSwap. That was so cool. Again, one of the things that stood out to me was Web3 way of doing commerce. Like Web3 is just transitioning Web2 in such healthy ways. And it was a glimpse of a screen, but even like the thought of like NFTs being integrated in divorce and real estate and all of that, it makes me excited about the future of innovation of NFTs. And then of course we have Brittany and Munib on the NFTs and BTC. Brittany talking about the history of NFTs on BTC. I learned a lot from that and where it's going moving forward. And Munib talking about how BTC is absolutely a viable option now and in the future to trade NFTs. So I mean that's some of the highlights I feel like that really soaked into me on my panels.
Yeah, that was very good. Trevor, did anything stand out to you in the last?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta echo everything you guys said. I mean, I'd also include Pio and Easy Eats and Soul Legend and Jamil talking about multi-chain, Solana, Stacks. You know, I think it's really important to be involved in multiple blockchains so that you can have access to different opportunities. You know, you never want to just limit yourself to only one space. There can be a little bit of a learning curve or, you know, a ramp up and sort of getting used, you know, downloading a new wallet, understanding how things work. But I think there's, you know, as we've seen with Solana, the volume has been growing and actually Magic getting past OpenSea for a brief time period. And of course, I'm super bullish about Stacks and Bitcoin NFTs. So, I'm looking forward to making trades on all of those platforms.
Yeah, of course, there is more to come. There is more to come, Trevor.
Yes. There is, yeah. So I just want to highlight that, of course, there's more to come. We have day 2 tomorrow of Web3 Week. Again, follow the hashtag. Brought to you by Ninja Alert. So go follow Ninja Alerts for all the recent updates as well. But tomorrow at 11:30 Eastern time, it's going to be about GameFi and the Metaverse. Kim, would you like to talk about day 2, what all we're going to be looking at?
Oh, what I'm looking forward to is that we're going to have legendary science fiction writer Neal Stephenson is going to be joining us tomorrow. And if you don't know who that is, he did coin the term metaverse. He coined it in his book Snow Crash. Now, you could, it is a little bit more interactive. You could ask Neal Stephenson some questions. All you need is to have a CrashPunk NFT and join their Discord so you can ask him questions live. I'm looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to GameFi and different metaverses. We're gonna have Step in here. Chris, you know how we talk about Stepping a lot on the NFT Traders Show. I'm looking to
move to earn.
Solana Summer. That's gonna be very, very important. We're also gonna have YGG here tomorrow, and Sandbox is gonna be here. I do own plots of land in Sandbox, so I'm very, very excited for what's to come tomorrow. What are you looking forward to in day 3, Chris?
Yeah, so in day 3, we're going to hear from LimeWire COO. I used LimeWire like over a decade ago. It's been around for a long time. But yeah, we're going to hear from LimeWire COO, Avenged Sevenfold. I'll get to that in a second. Jillian Rothman from Warner of the intersection of music and blockchain at Unmutable. And we'll actually be able to hear unreleased music from some of the brightest talents in the space, like Lesid, Avenged Sevenfold, Sound Money Crew on Immutable. Man, it was over a decade ago. I was listening to Little Piece of Heaven, watching the music video, getting my poor little mind. I was like 13 years old watching that video. But
you was only 13, Chris?
Whatever 12 years ago was. But yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to, I listened to a lot more Avenged Sevenfold moving on. I'm looking forward to listening to some of the other artists too on unreleased music, and just, hearing about music in the blockchain, because that's still such a developing topic that we mention all the time. Who's going to do it right? And so just hearing some insight on that.
Yeah. Trevor, are you looking forward to any coming up highlights?
Yeah, man, I think if people like today, like it's going to get bigger and bigger. Like tomorrow's going to be bigger than today. And I think the music day is going to be stacked. The music day is going to be the best music event about NFTs that's ever come. And, I think the GameFi Metaverse is going to be amazing as well. We have such a diverse set of speakers coming from all different use cases. Of course, we have the legend Neal Stephenson. So I am super excited for that. And I think, this whole week is organized by Stacks Foundation, Ninja Alerts helping with today, and the CrashPunks helping with tomorrow, and then of course Immutable on Friday. So just a fantastic event. I'm very happy with the event. And I think I'm learning a lot too. Like the speakers we got to, that's not to minimize the speakers today. Like we had some of the biggest traders and the biggest influencers in the whole trading space today on itsNFT. And I think with the music day on Friday, there's like multiple tracks actually on Friday, so it's just like they have a much bigger event. And of course Neal Stephenson, like this guy, he has like when it comes to Silicon Valley and entrepreneurs, like Snow Crash is considered like the ultimate book for the genre. Like it's like almost like a cult like following in Silicon Valley among different innovators. Like Naval Ravikant, who's like a massive angel investor in companies like Uber and things like that. So Neal's a pretty big deal. I think he's a multiple New York Times bestseller, but he also like kind of predicts things. Like he coined the term metaverse. So I'm super excited. I think today was amazing. All the people that we had, literally some of the biggest traders and influencers on the NFT side today, and we have even more tomorrow and the day after. So
yeah. And just a reminder, this is a free online conference. So like if you enjoyed today, send it to a friend tomorrow, let them know how to watch it. Again, follow Ninja Alerts on Twitter, join the Discord, be following Stacks, follow that hashtag that we provided earlier, so you can watch it on YouTube or join in the event. It's free, and there is so many good traders here today offering a wealth of information. So even now, especially when the next bull run comes, and you didn't watch something like this and you're complaining, oh, I don't know what to do or whatever, go watch this, share this video with a friend, and make sure they know and they get these tools and get equipped and get ready for better market conditions and even being able to make money in the bear market.
Yes, definitely subscribe to the Stacks YouTube channel. That's where you could watch all these videos. And I'm again, we need to give a thank you to all the speakers that showed up today: Grifton, Isis J, Jen Jang Bang, Classic Mitchum, Jamil, Easy Eats Bodega, Solana Legend. I'm just gonna keep naming them all, man, because it was all I had to take off my glasses. It was fogging out here, man. I was so excited. It's not even humid. Like we John Ennis was also here, the NFT Butler guys was here. Michael Gold was here from Shadersverse. Evan was also here from Inspect. Oh my God, Brittany Laughlin. I'm just gonna keep going. Manib Ali was here. Brett Malinowski, Hunter Orwa, Trapo Farmer, Malachi, and of course the moderators. Po.eth was also here, and Matt Medved, and we can't forget Trevor, Trevor Owens, man, the man himself, man. Thank you to Stacks for putting this together. Thank you for Ninja Alerts for putting this together. Make sure to use the hashtag Web3Week on Twitter. Follow both Stacks and Ninja Alerts Twitter account and the YouTube channel. And that's thank you guys for watching. That's all I have to say. Thank you guys for watching. I'll be here tomorrow. I might have my glasses on tomorrow because I won't be this foggy, but I'll be here tomorrow.
Any final words, Trevor, before we conclude it? I didn't know if you wanted to talk about our NFT Traders Club or anything. Oh, like that.
Yeah, guys. If you like the co-host here, Chris and Gutter, or Ken now used to be Gutter.eth, but went over to.
I'm still Gutter.eth. I'm both.
Okay. All right. So you guys run an amazing YouTube show. I love watching you guys. You guys do 4 times a week. You can subscribe to the channel just on YouTube. The Ninja Alerts channel, and we bring on a lot of great traders, like people that have come on for today, have come on the show to go more in depth about their backstory, their trading strategy. And so that show runs 4 times per week, and it really helps you just follow the market and sort of, you guys cover the latest trends and what's going on in the space. And so, as a trader myself, I rely on that show to just get extra information that I use for trading. And of course, for Ninja Alerts, we did launch the new V2 app today. So if you go and check it out at ninjaalerts.com, we got a fresh landing page up and the new
night mode.
Dark mode. I know,
yes.
Ken, you've been waiting for that because you always say can't trust somebody who uses light mode. There might be something wrong. Can't trust somebody who's light mode. So we got the dark mode out there now, and so I hope everybody enjoys it.
Yes, and also we do have a Spaces. Stacks is hosting a Spaces later on today at 5 p.m. We're gonna be on there as speakers, so you could come up and ask questions and learn more about Stacks and everything we do here. Learn more about Web3 Week, and I'm also excited about that. That's at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's in about 2.5 hours. So make sure to join us for that one as well.
All right, thank you guys.